So hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1, what if Izuku was a genius, user of one for all quirk, and surpassed all the previous users who had one for all. But before we start, please do like and subscribe to the channel, and please complete 1k subscriber on this channel, that's my dream. Now, let's put this drama aside and start the story. Chapter 1. The day I learned to fight back. I am Izuku Midoriya, and this is my account of what led me to become the world's greatest hero. I remember what pushed me down this path. All I'd done was answer a question my teacher asked me. They didn't have to laugh at me, reminding me that I was the odd one out. 1 out of 4 in the world, but not in my country. Here in Japan, it was more like 1 in 100. I was quirkless. I wasn't born able to do anything extraordinary, and I still refused to say I couldn't be a hero. Give it back to me. I begged, and I could see the cruelness in my best and only friend's eyes. If I was a stronger man, then I'd have taken it back, but I'd spent my life learning that not all men were created equal. You give me orders, you damn nerd. Katsuki Bakugo, my once friend, now a personal hell, yelled back before activating his quirk and burning my notebook before throwing it out the window. You want to be a hero so badly? He asked, turned away, but I could see his smile like he wanted to tell me a funny joke. Here's a time-saving idea for you. If you think you'll have a quirk in your next life, go ahead and take a swan dive off the roof. I turned from the window, where I'd been looking for my notebook, enraged, but as he made a blast in his hand, I felt my body shake, and he left with a sneer. As soon as I was sure it was safe to leave, I went to collect my notebook. If I was lucky, I could salvage it, and when I fished it out of the koi pond, I could read most of it. Once it dried, I'd be able to fix it up, and anything gone I could rewrite. I'd managed to get away without being bruised or worse, so this was a win for me. If I jumped, he'd be charged with bullying me into jumping. I thought to myself, closing my eyes and thinking about it. Could I just really let go of this life for another? I thought about my mom, and I knew the answer was no, I couldn't. Damn it. I yelled, angry and afraid and alone like always. I didn't want this to be my life, bullied through life, and my mom worried about me every time I stepped outside. I was so lost in thought on my walk home that I didn't notice the goopy villain who began to try and take my body, killing me for a place to hide, but between the fear and the anger, I grew something else. A pear. I reached out my hand, slowly, and I could feel my body getting weak, but I could feel one of the only solid parts of him, and I squeezed it, and I could hear him scream, his liquid grip loosening enough that I could break free, and I ran, just as the sewer lid in front of me was pushed away, the greatest hero to ever live standing in front of me. All Might. I called, starstruck for a moment before I moved out of the way, the hero quickly taking down the villain and collecting him in a soda bottle. There's blood on your hand. Are you okay? He asked me, his voice confident but kind, and as I looked at my hand, I saw the crimson covering it, smeared and a little sticky. I am fine. It's not mine. That villain, he attacked, and I grabbed his eye. I didn't mean to, I mumbled, and panic overwhelmed me. I'd hurt someone, even if it was to save myself, someone else's blood on my hands. All Might. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and I've had a burning question since I was a child. Can someone with no quirk, no special power or ability, could they become a hero? I was born quirkless, and all I've ever wanted was to be a hero like you. So is it possible for me to save others? I asked, looking at him. Both of us were surprised by my words. I think it's a noble dream, but as for being attainable, I'm not so sure. He paused, and I thought that was it. My dream was crushed. But you got real guts, kid. You took on a villain all by yourself and even managed to hold your own briefly. Keep working, and one day, it may be possible. He told me, and I could my knees shake with pure relief, tears I couldn't stop falling as I laughed. Thank you, All Might. I hugged him before I pulled my phone and notebook out. Do you think I could get a picture and autograph? No one else will believe me otherwise. I told him, and I could see his skin smoking, but he quickly signed his name and took a selfie with me before jumping away, surely off to save the day somewhere else. For the first time since I was 4, I found myself feeling confident, my mind free, and as I walked into my house, I stopped to wash the blood off my hand before I saw my mother, standing in the doorway of the bathroom with a smile. You seem to be in a good mood. Did anything interesting happen today? She asked, a bit tentative, and once I dried my hands, I showed her All Might's autograph and the picture he took with me. Mom, he told me I could be a hero, all I have to do is work hard, and maybe I won't be the most popular hero, but I'll save people and bring smiles to their faces. I was excited and hardly thinking, but I don't think she cared. For the first time in years, I'd come home smiling. The next few weeks were rough, waking up early to go for a run, using most of my money, and even selling some of my prized All Might merchandise so I could buy weights and supplements to help build muscle. And while I'd regret the loss of my merch, it was gone for a good cause, months passing with little change, even getting a grip trainer to use in class. Pretty soon, I'd gone from a scared wimp to a decently confident athlete. Unfortunately, I still had trouble talking to girls. Luckily, it didn't hinder me too much, since unless it was for class, I didn't want to talk to any in my school. They'd spent years laughing and joining in the bullying. I left Kitsuki alone, never provoking him, never mentioning my dream to be a hero, still because a burn on my skin, bruises, sore muscles, all of it would slow me down. But 3 months in, he got tired of not being the object of my obsession. At least, that was my best guess. "You damn nerd. Do you think you're better than me?" he yelled, way too close to my face, enough to make fear raise its head before I pushed it back down. I looked up from my math book, and I'd been doing my homework at school to give me more time to work out. "No. You've told me that I'll never be as good as you, so I've been leaving you alone while I focus on building myself into a better person. I'm not as good as you, but that's a fact that I've come to terms with." I told him calmly, hoping to make the situation less painful for me. He looked surprised, like he'd expected me to cower back and apologize for being alive. Not doing that seemed to just piss him off worse. "Who do you think you are?" he screamed, his hands making pops and cackles before I calmly stood, gathering my things. "I'm over you. I'm done trying to be your friend and pretending that you aren't a villain in the making. Goodbye, Kaken. Please don't ever speak to me again." I told him quietly, meeting his eyes before he exploded in a rage, grabbing for me, but I knew he would. He was predictable, and I grabbed his arm, slinging him over me and into a desk. "Don't you get it? I'm not your fucking punching bag anymore. Do you want someone who won't fight back? Well, that's not me anymore." I screamed at him, raising my voice at him for the first time in longer than I could remember. "I'm not your weak, pathetic crybaby anymore. I'm not a damn nerd or Deku. I'm Izuku Midoriya, and don't you ever fucking forget that again." I told him, the shock and surprise on his face filling me with a sense of pride as I walked out, heading to see if the cafeteria staff needed help unloading the truck and helping them before I left. It felt good to help, plus I got to move heavy stuff. It was a win-win for me. I decided to go for a run that day, trying to clear my head and get some focus back, but it was hard. I'd hoped Kitsuki would treat me like a person again for years. I guess that was a dumb thought from a dumb kid. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I ran, the world blurring as I finally fell, crying into the sand and feeling a stinging pain in my heart. Once I'd gotten a hold of myself, I wiped my face and took a deep breath. I needed to figure out where I was. "Young Midoriya." A voice called, and I looked up, and I could see him, All Might himself, standing above me. "All Might, you remembered my name?" I asked, breathless, able to be starstruck without worrying about dying now. Of course I did. It's not every day a young man stops me and asks me if he can be a hero. He told me, offering me a hand up, which I took. "I've been working hard, like you said, working out, studying the moves of heroes and villains, analyzing quirks. I'm signed up for martial arts classes that'll start soon, too. I'll be a hero, I know that now." I told him, grinning wide, the sadness of cutting off my former friend overshadowed by my excitement. "Young Midoriya, come with me," he told me, leading me through piles of trash, electronics, and other things from the sea. What could he want to say that needed this much privacy? He said nothing for a moment before a puff smoke came off him, and I couldn't see him until it cleared, a skinny, skeletal man standing there, his sunken eyes still shimmering the same blue as the hero, and I could piece it together, even if it made no sense. "All Might." I stared at him, taking in his different look. Was this really All Might, the most famous hero in the world? "Yes, this is my true form, young Midoriya." He spoke like he could read my mind. "When I'm not using my quirk, I look like this." I didn't know why All Might was telling me this or that. What he'd say next would rock my world. "My quirk is special, able to be given from one person to another. It was given to me by my teacher, who received it from her teacher, all the way to the first generation of heroes," he explained, lifting his shirt to reveal an old wound, one that looked like it hadn't ever healed properly. "That's where Toxic Chainsaw hit you, right?" Remembering the footage of the fight I'd seen online. "No, this is from a much more powerful villain, the same one who killed my master," he told me, looking at my face and nodding. I guess I hit my horror poorly. "It's not the prettiest, is it? During that fight, I won, but at a steep cost. My stomach was lost, and my respiratory system was damaged beyond repair. Since then, the time I can use my quirk has gotten shorter and shorter," he tells me, and for a second, I hope I know what he's saying, what he's about to say before I hope that I'm wrong. "You're active for about 3 hours a day. That's because of your wound?" I asked, and he nodded. "Why tell me?" I asked, watching him drop his shirt. "Because young Midoriya, you embody a vision, fueled by a goal to protect and save people. I believe that you are a worthy candidate to receive my quirk." He told me, and I felt my brain get a little fuzzy. Was this real? Me? But I'm quirkless. I finally managed to spit out the biggest concern. How could I use a quirk when I'd never had one? So am I. He said calmly, and I looked at him. All Might, the most powerful person alive, was quirkless. But what about after? The world can't just lose you. I argued. If I agreed, then who was gonna take the responsibility? Me? I'm a 14-year-old kid. Don't worry, I'd have a spark, enough of the power to push me along until you were ready to be the next symbol of peace. He explained, and I looked at my hands. Could I do it? Was it this easy? Was I this lucky? I accept. I want to save people, and I was going to do that quirkless. But if I can save someone with a quirk, then I can save more people and inspire them like you do. I told him, humbled by his offer and his words. If All Might thought I could be the next symbol of peace, I knew I could. Excellent. We'll need to build up some more muscle, but you've made great strides since then. Once your body is ready, then you'll receive your quirk. He told me, and I just nodded. He could tell me I had to burn my hair off, and I'd still listen to him. All Might, what's it called? I mean, your quirk. I asked him, wondering if he'd tell me. Maybe you got to name it when you got it. All Might looked at me, and he smiled wide before he told me. One for all. From that moment on, I trained under All Might every free moment I had, using the personalized plan I'd made with the experience that he brought. We'd started pushing me to my limit, and my goal changed from normal weightlifting and learning Muay Thai to cleaning the beach. He'd offered me his quirk on, no small feat for anyone, especially someone with average strength and size. Good work. You've been clearing out this dump way faster than I thought you could have. He told me, halfway through the beach, and I would have said something, but I was busy lugging a refrigerator through the sand at that time. Finally, the day came, the beach had been cleared, and I had just under a month left before the UA entrance exam when All Might offered me the quirk in the weirdest way possible. I had to eat a piece of his hair, and as weird as that was, I did it. So now what? I asked while All Might looked at me with pride. It'll take a few hours to kick in. Which is why you'll be spending the day resting. Go have fun, go to an arcade, something, anything besides pushing your body. He told me, giving me a pat on the shoulder before making his way to wherever he was going. Okay, resting. Fun stuff arcade. There's one near my house, I'm sure I could find something to do. I mumbled, walking off with my head in the clouds, thinking about what there would be at an arcade. It had been so long since I'd gone, I'd been avoiding them to avoid Kitsuki, who used to go there all the time with his lackeys. I wasn't worried about that anymore. Whenever we were in the same room, he'd taken to ignoring me, like I wasn't there. It made my life way easier and a lot quieter. It was loud, and people of all ages, from young children to teens hanging out, were running around, enjoying themselves. I wondered for a moment if this was the place for me, but my eye caught an All Might plush in a vending machine, and I pulled out a little bit of the allowance money I had, taking 2 turns to figure out how I needed to grab it, and then using the third to finally get it. Whoa. A little boy with pink hair and skin laughed, excited to see someone win. You want it? I asked, offering the plush to him with a smile, kneeling to his level. Really? He reached for it, taking it slowly before laughing and running off excitedly. I went around to other machines, getting more prizes and giving them out. I didn't have room for them all, and besides, they'd love them instead of looking at them as part of a collection. Hey you, green hair guy. Someone called, and I looked around, finding no one else with green hair before I pointed at myself. Yeah, you. And I saw the owner of the voice, a girl with pink hair and skin, her eyes somewhat square-shaped with yellower eyes and black sclery, notably long eyelashes below and around the sides of her eyes, 2 horns on the top of her curly fluffy-looking hair, who decided to get way too close to my face. Whoa. I managed to get out, taking in her features for a second before she pulled away, narrowing her eyes before finally nodding like she'd been judging me on something. You don't look creepy. She decided, and I wanted to celebrate. Yay, I didn't look like a predator. Okay, so and now that we've established that, can I help you? I asked her, stuttering through my first sentence with a girl my age in weeks, as the boy I'd given the All Might plush moved out from behind her slowly, nervous as he mumbled from behind the toy. Thank you. I felt a grin growing on my face as I waved to him. You're very welcome. Are you going to try out for a hero course? I mean, you got those crazy muscles, so it's a possibility. The girl told me, poking and prodding my arms and side, getting a ticklish laugh out of me. Stop that, or at least tell me your end name first. I'm Izuku Midoriya, and you are? I asked her, feeling uncomfortable with her touching, but I didn't want to be rude. Huh? Oh yeah. I'm Mina Shido. Nice to meet you, Izuku. This is my little brother Junsui. The little pink boy waves, and I noticed his eyes look just like his sister's. So, are you trying out for a hero course? I'm hoping to get into the UA program. She told me, talking about her quirk at a million miles per hour, not noticing me as I wrote down what she said, and in between my notes, I didn't notice her stop talking, expecting me to say something, but quickly sketching her for reference. "Whatcha doing there, buddy?" she asked, and I showed it to her, my face red as she looked over it. She looked at the paper, then me, then back to the paper, before speaking, and I wondered if she was angry. "Can I keep this sketch? That's a pretty good eye you got for details," she told me, and I shook my head. "I can make you another one, but I can't rip the paper. Once I do, it's not intact, and the paper always has to be perfect." I told her, probably sounding crazy, but she laughed, nodding. "Sure, but if you're gonna do that, let's do it some other time, okay? I just came in looking for Junsui. We're supposed to be helping our grandmother." She took my pen and wrote her name and number on my palm. Like a hangout?" I asked, feeling nervous over the idea of it. "Yeah, like a hangout. Any guy giving out free toys can't be too bad," she told me, both she and Junsui walking away. When I'd managed to think of something, she was pretty close to leaving, but I wanted to answer her question from earlier. "I'm going to the UA entrance exam, too. I hope you make it," I called, watching her turn and give me a thumbs up and a smile, calling back. "I hope you make it too, Izuku," she called back, leaving me with a wide grin. I'd managed a whole sentence with a girl without stuttering, even if most of the conversation had me reeling. I felt pretty good about myself by the end of the day, coming home and getting ready for school, 27 days to go, even if I hadn't felt the quirk kick in just yet. By tomorrow, it probably would. The next day, I woke up and accidentally crushed my doorknob, so I was pretty certain it kicked in. I had to explain to Mom what happened and pretend like I had no idea how I did it. But the doorknob still worked, so she didn't worry too much, just telling me that I was growing and needed to learn to watch my strength. Once All Might knew, he had me go to the beach after school, tossing special rocks into the ocean and seeing how far they flew, little trackers on the bottom measuring the distance. My first and shortest throw was 121.8 meters, and my longest was 838.2 meters, and I had to wonder how much further they'd have flown if the rocks had been lighter. 5 pounds of ball weren't the easiest thing to throw long distance. "Very good, young Midoriya, very good. I commend your progress," he told me, and I wondered if that was it. Did I just have super strength now? Were we going to test it out further? We did test it, All Might taking me to a special gym for quirks and watching me lift over a ton, run over 20 miles an hour, and jump over 20 feet before he was satisfied with the results. It felt strange, but with time, I'd get used to using it. "Not bad, and you should improve as time goes on. Just don't forget to keep training here," he told me, handing me a card that would let me in here whenever I needed. "This might be the last time we see each other for a while, at least until you get into UA. I wanted to let you know, however, that I'm extremely proud of you," he told me, and I felt my eyes moisten slightly. "Thank you, All Might. I'll do you proud," I told him, wiping the tears away with a big smile. The big day was here. The last few weeks had seemed to drag by as I kept training, wondering if I should call Ishido, and ultimately deciding that if I was her, I wouldn't want some weird guy calling me. Her number was written down in my journal, in her section, next to the sketch of her, but it didn't do much good when I was afraid to dial her. The worst part was lying to my mom, telling her I had no idea how I'd managed to develop a quirk, but she didn't even seem to mind, just happy for me, even making my favorite dinner for me when I got back from registering my quirk. I should do something nice for Mom later, I decided, muttering to help soothe my nerves. My written exam was already over, waiting with a large group of potential students and classmates. "Okay, Izuku, you got this. Just destroy the robots and avoid the zero-pointer," I muttered, watching the gates open, listening to President Mick yell to begin, and my feet moved. Only one of you was paying attention. "What's wrong?" The test started. "Run. Run." I heard him yelling, but that didn't matter. My job was to destroy the robots, not worry about the others being slow. "Smash," I cried, turning a one-pointer into scrap, moving further in, taking down 2 more one-pointers and a 2-pointer before struggling a little with a 3-pointer, but figuring out its weak spot pretty quickly. 6 minutes. President Mick's voice echoed, and I kept moving, another 1-pointer, 2 more 2-pointers, 3 more 3-pointers. 22 points, I mumbled, the ground rumbling as I looked up, the 0-pointer taller than the skyscrapers around us. "Oh my god," I mumbled, thinking about taking my points and falling back, but I could see a girl trapped under rubble, and everyone else had the same idea as me, no one stopping to help her. My feet moved before my head could catch up, moving the rubble and picking up the girl. "What's your quirk?" I asked, jumping away to get her to safety. "I can make things float if I touch them, but my limit is about 3 tons. Any higher and I'll barf," she explained, and I gave her to a boy with an engine in each leg. Engine guy, you carry her close to me. Otherwise, this fall might kill me. I told him, running towards the giant robot. 0 points, but someone else could get hurt. Taking it on was only natural. I clenched my butt as I jumped and I was in front of its head. Smash, extra. I yelled, my arm pulled back before I swung, all the power and energy stored up inside and hitting the robot, turning its head and chest into a crater just as I began to fall. Engine guy. I could use an assist. I yelled, my arm and legs burning, pain shooting through it, but it was manageable, so they weren't broken. At least I hope not. To my utter delight and relief, he was waiting, the girl slapping my face to touch me, but I didn't hit the ground. Holy crap guys, we did it. I fell to the ground, the girl releasing her quirk. I'd be dead if it wasn't for you guys. Thank you both. I told them, huffing on the ground, my eyes closed with a smile. Even if I didn't make it in, I had saved someone. I could live with myself if All Might wanted his quirk back. Time. The exam is now over. President Mick yelled, and I opened my eyes in horror. I took the last of your time, and you guys didn't get any more points. I'm so sorry. I apologized, feeling ashamed. I was fine with not getting into UA, but they didn't even get to argue with my stupid plan. I don't think I could keep going anyway. She told me, and the engine guy shook his head. You were willing to go back and help someone else and help us all by taking on the 0-pointer. I am ashamed that I thought little of you when I originally saw you. He told me, watching me struggle to my feet. My name is Izuku Midoriya. If I'm gonna fail, I'm glad I'm doing it with you guys. I told them. Then Ida. The sentiment is echoed. He offered his hand, and I shook it. Ichako Uraraka. I guess there are worse people to fail with. She told us, drawing a laugh from me as I limped back to the gate, my new friends by my side. Oh my god. That's Recovery Girl. I exclaimed, limping a little faster to meet the retired hero. Recovery Girl, my friend, her ankle is messed up. Can you help her? I asked her, watching her look at me, then Uraraka, moving to help her, kissing her on the hand. She came back with a weird look on her face, kissing the top of my hand, my legs going weak as my energy plummeted. You should be more worried about yourself next time. You came very close to hurting yourself badly. She told me, offering me candy, which I gladly accepted. What kind of hero worries about himself first? I asked, popping the candy in my mouth and standing. I still felt weak, but I could walk. I hope you guys make it into the UA, so we can improve this team, I told Ida and Uraraka, smiling as wide as I could as I waved goodbye, heading back home. A week later, I got my letter and opened it at the table, listening to All Might explain rescue points. For helping out Uraraka, I'd managed an extra sweet 60 points for a total of 82, pushing me to the first place position. I'd done better than everyone, even if it was because of points I didn't even know existed. Hey, Mom. Mom. I called, wondering where she'd gone. She was the one who'd found my letter waiting with the rest of the mail. I'm here. I was just so nervous I didn't want to listen in. She spoke, coming back from her bedroom. Well, get this. I paused, letting the drama settle in a little. I'm in. I ranked number 1. The sound she made was somewhere between a sob and a squeal of joy, but she hugged me tight enough I had to remind her I needed oxygen. Welcome to your Hero Academia. The little All Might holograph called, disappearing as it turned off. 1 month later, I stood outside the legendary building, staring up at it with a strange feeling. I was here. I could make All Might and my mom proud. I took 2 steps, tripping over my feet and feeling myself fall, but never feeling the impact of the ground. Izuku, you made it. Have you seen Ida? I heard Uraraka say, helping position me so that when she released her quirk, my feet hit the ground. No, but I'm sure he's around here somewhere, I told her, smiling at my friend. Come on, he could already be inside for all we know, she told me, dragging me along behind her, the hall's full of students. What class are you in? I asked, finally finding my footing and walking beside her. 1A. What about you? I grinned, putting my arms behind my head. Same here. I hope Ida managed to get put in the same class. We looked at the giant door, staring up at it before we opened it. I guess it needed to be so big for people whose quirks made them bigger. Remove your feet from the desk. It's an insult to those who came before, as well as the craftsmen who built it. Ida spoke loudly, not quite yelling, but loud enough even with the distance between us. Ida. You made it. I waved, ignoring the person he was yelling at, that spiky blonde hair telling me what I needed to know. I was catching up to Bakugo. Ida turned away from Bakugo, and I could see how being forgotten so easily made him pissed. Good to see you again. I was afraid I'd failed you and Uraraka. I told him, offering my hand. Izuku, over here. I heard a girl squeal, turning to find Ishido talking with a redhead with more well-defined muscles, a skinny blonde guy with a lightning bolt pattern in his hair, and a short petite girl with what looked like phone jacks on her ears. Ishido. I waved, happy to see she'd made it too. What the hell, Deku? How did a quirkless nobody like you get in here? Bakugo finally exploded, maybe from being ignored, maybe from just seeing me again. He probably thought he'd never see my face again. But then again, our middle school principal had congratulated both of us on getting in. Why would he wait to blow up over it? Oh, that's easy, Bakugo. I'm not quirkless, and I'm not useless. You were just too wrapped up in your world to care otherwise. That's the same attitude that had you on the floor all those months ago. I turned, my smile erased as I walked up to him. I thought I made it clear then. You don't get to speak to me anymore. And my name? It's Midoriya. Deku is what friends call me. I told him, getting close to his and making sure that he understood. When I was sure he did, I found my seat and waited. A few seconds passed before a giant yellow caterpillar stood up. If you've come here to socialize, you're in the wrong class. This is the hero course. He spoke, unzipping and revealing he was a normal-looking man. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Izawa. Pleased to meet you. No introduction to the school, no meeting with the administration, no speeches. That was how Shota Izawa taught his students. I've read his record since then, and by the time my class arrived, he'd expelled over 150 students. The test, we just had to do a physical exam with our quirks, but whoever came in last was expelled. Shit, I remember the fear among us, but this would make us better. The 50-meter dash, and I learned how much faster Iida was than me, but that was okay. If I was the best already, then who'd push me to be greater? Grip strength, long jump, sidestepping, throwing a softball, endurance running, upper body strength, seated toe touches. There was always someone better, even a few people in some areas, but I was ahead of Bakugo. For the first time in my life, I was better than him at something. By the end of the test, Izawa told us that he'd been lying and no one was getting expelled. But that didn't matter to me. I was number 3, just under Shoto Todoroki and Momoyae Rozu, with Bakugo under me. Worse than me. What the hell? How did you get a higher score than me? How'd you cheat your way into UA? Bakugo screamed and remembered the years of torment from him and what he'd called me. Quirkless, nobody, I muttered, looking at the scoring still. I could do it. I could be the hero All Might saw. What was that? He yelled again, and I turned, walking up to him. That's what you called me. Even this morning, you didn't stop to think we'd been wrong. My quirk showed itself when I started working out, growing as my muscles did. I worked for my spot on that list, and if you stopped acting like I'm still competing with you, you could see we're not even playing the same game anymore, villain. I told him, blowing up at him. How many more times did he want to hear this? I looked at Izawa, hands shaking with rage, but I was fine. This is twice now that you've both aired your business in class. Well, this would be a good soap opera. This is my class. Don't let it happen again, or I promise you'll both see UA from the outside of that gate from now on. Izawa told us, and I nodded, feeling my face heat up. Sorry, sensei, I muttered, listening to him talk for a moment longer, but his words didn't make it past my ears, almost trembling now, but I made it until I saw the others heading back, following Iida and Uraraka, the three of us making jokes until I felt better. Soon, I didn't care about Bakugo, and I planned to spend the rest of my day resting. Tomorrow was All Might's class, and I knew he'd push us in an entirely different way. Boy, the Bakugo didn't yell, but he wasn't quite. I mean, Midoriya. I looked him in the eyes, my friend stepping in front. They were protecting me. Bakugo, I spoke after a moment, making my way to the front and looking at him. Let's talk. He grumbled angrily, the closest to nice he'd been to me in years. No. Not today. I'm tired. But you take the train to get here earlier than me. Tomorrow you should wait for me. I told him, offering a small smile. Maybe I'd gotten through to him for once. DCH, fine. But you'd better not keep me waiting. He yelled as the little bit of restraint he had left his body. Yeah, we'll make it to class on time, I replied, watching him storm off. Okay, that was super weird. I'm weirdly hungry. Do you guys want some food? I'm buying. I offered, pulling out my notebook. I had a lot to write down, especially after seeing all the amazing quirks my classmates had. I'm afraid not, I've got to get home, Iida informed me, and I shrugged. It was no big deal. What about you, Uraraka? I asked, wondering if she had a fever for a moment. Her face had gone comically red. Then no, that's okay, I gotta get home too. She told me. Alright, get home safely, I told them as they left, putting my notebook away, or at least I tried to, but someone was holding it. You didn't call me. I heard her voice, my brain freezing up. Now I had to explain why I'd ghosted her for a month. I just thought, that maybe. Stuttering over myself, I tried not to meet her eyes. But she did also deserve the truth. I'm sorry, Ashido, I just figured you were being nice, and I didn't want to get my hopes up too high. I bowed my head in shame, putting up my hands. But the offer I made Uraraka and Iida still stands. Come get some food with me, my treat, and I can get you your sketch, too. I offered, looking up, one eye closed as she looked at me, thinking it over. You're one weird guy, Midoriya, you know that. I felt dumb for a second, and I wanted to just melt into nothing. Lucky for you, I happen to like weird. Her words were different than most girls. She wasn't kidding or making me feel like a fool. No, she meant what she said. Deku. My friends can call me Deku. I told her, standing up and grinning. Deku? Like, useless. It's not a good look if that's your go-to nickname. How about Izuku? She teased, my face heating a little. She was too cute to argue with, and I didn't feel like doing it anyway. It's better than a lot of things I've been called. I put my hands on my backpack straps, walking next to Ashido, my mind void of anything that we could talk about. Suuo, what's the deal with you and that Bakugo guy? She asked, hitting close to home immediately. It was a fair question, though. How did I explain it to someone who'd never experienced it? My own experience is kinda biased, but I was friends with Bakugo since we were babies until we were 4. Then he got his quirk and we were still friends for a while. Then, one day, I tried to help him up after he fell, and he got mad at me, telling me I was looking down on him. From then on, when he tried to bully someone, I tried to stop him. But I wasn't much against his quirk, and eventually, he started to only bully me. Since we thought I was quirkless, it was just an easy target to bully me over that. I paused, looking both ways before crossing the street. I gave up on him for a little bit and he got mad, so he tried to hit me, and I threw him on the ground. He hadn't talked to me since this morning, and by then, I'd figured out I had a quirk, and he never knew. So he went from being the best to being number 4, and when some he thought was just a quirkless guy beat him, he kind of lost it. From my point of view, it seemed pretty cut and dry. But I knew nothing was that simple with Kitsuki. He was angry for other reasons, I just didn't know what. And no one did anything. Her eyes were wide. Well, wider than they already were. No. I mean, strength is everything. If you aren't strong, people think you're nothing. I replied, stopping outside a McDonald's and holding the door open for her. A gentleman. My, aren't I lucky? Teased a pink girl, my eyes rolling so far back that I thought for a second I saw my brains. Don't get used to it, I'm just trying to make a good impression. I joked back, running a hand through my curls. I've talked about myself a lot, but I'm interested in you. A few seconds passed as a blush spread across my face. I mean, interested in getting to know you better, not like interested in you. I'm not like that, I swear. My words came out quickly, too quickly, and I hid my now burning face in my hands, Ashido giggling at me. I knew what you meant. You didn't need to get so specific. I put my order in, a nugget entree and some water, watching her order a chocolate orange frap. You prefer sweets? I asked, moving out of line and sitting, filling my cup with water before we found seats. Well, I usually prefer more savory stuff, but since you paid, I decided to treat myself a little. She looked at me, and then my hair, gently touching it. I was right. Your hair is so soft and fluffy. Exclaimed the girl, leaving me feeling like my brain was melting until she finally retracted her hand. Ooh, she left me speechless, just a dopey grin and red face. Oops. I forgot you get flustered easily, she apologized, and I blinked a couple of times, her words finally resetting my brain. Huh? Oh, yeah, I mean, it was a little weird, but I don't mind. It was kinda nice. I told her with unearned confidence, expecting her to look at me like I was disgusting before she laughed and sat back. I just can't get a lock on you. The last time I saw you, you could barely string together a sentence. Now you're more confident than any boy I've ever talked to. I leaned forward, sipping my water as my order was dropped off at our table. I hadn't gotten a good hold of my quirk when we first met, and I'd never had the confidence to talk to most people before. During the entrance exam, I felt confident when Iida and Uraraka worked with me. I've been riding that feeling since, trying to be a better me. I explained, opening my nuggets and biting into one. So this is the normal unabashed you from now on? Cause if it is, I like him. She told me, my face burning again, but my grin wide. I was just sitting in a McDonald's with a friend, and I was having the best time of my life as I got to know the pink girl who'd played with my hair. The next morning was awful, I was anxious and nervous to meet with Bakugo, but I said I would, and I didn't like to lie. So, as soon as I'd gotten breakfast, I was out the door, heading to the train station to find Bakugo waiting, his spiky blonde hair unique even in a city of mutant-type quirks and odd haircuts. It's about time you got here, I've been waiting for an hour, Bakugo grumbled, looking pissed off. I raised an eyebrow at him, too tired for his crap. You know what time I get here, so you only have yourself to blame. That's not the point. His voice was almost a growl, but so far, he hadn't yelled. I waited next to him, he'd asked me to talk, and he could be responsible for figuring out the conversation. Damn it, can't you make this easy? I'm trying to be nice to he caught himself, about to call me Deku. At least he was trying. I loved this exchange. For once, I wasn't defending myself. I had all the power. Easy. If you have something to say, then say it, but it's not my job to make things easy for you. Silence fell over us until the train came, the two of us standing next to each other for a while. Was this it? An awkward exchange, and then we just said nothing. I'm sorry. His words were sudden, without warning, not quite reaching my ears. I turned my head to look at him. He had my attention now. What? I said I'm sorry, Midoriya. He told me, and he really did look it. I don't forgive you, I told him, turning away, ready to move further away, but he grabbed my shoulders, spinning me until I was facing him. No, you don't understand. I'm sorry for being stupid, and it wasn't because you were quirkless. I was mad that you were always looking down on me. As he spoke, I let his words wash over me. I didn't look down on you, I wanted to be treated like an equal. I didn't follow you around because you were some amazing and powerful person, I liked you, Bakugo. I was coming into my own feelings and just wanted the hottest guy in class to look at me like I was human. I like you too. He told me, his gruffness gone and his voice a little hopeful. It had been so long since I'd seen him like this. I was angry and a little sad. He was too late for just an apology, and I wasn't going to let all the years of pain slide. I'm sorry, Bakugo, but maybe when you make an effort to be better, then we can talk about moving past this, maybe be friends. I wasn't stupid, but I pressed my lips to his, and I felt how soft they were before pulling away. Remember what you could have had if you were a little nicer. The train came to stop, and I got off, heading to English. My morning classes were going slow, still focused on that train ride, and the fact that my first kiss was just thrown away so unceremoniously, but after a lunch with Iida and Uraraka, the class I'd been looking forward to the most here. Basic hero training. Oh man, this is gonna be good. I couldn't contain all my excitement, some of it spilling out as we heard All Might from the hall. I have, and he paused before coming through the door. Come through the door like normal. Even though he was standing in the door in a weird position. I was more focused on what he was wearing, taking in the details of his Silver Age costume, and listening to him tell us that we were going to change into our costumes and go to ground beta. I opened my case, staring at my costume with a smile. My mom had spent so much on this costume, based on a sketch I'd made. This was the most valuable thing I owned, more than my set of All Might's boots with a certificate of authenticity. In the locker room, I could hear my classmates talking, one in particular talking about the assets of the girls he wanted to peek at the most. And you have a little bit of self-respect? I asked, slipping on my costume and making sure it fit properly. Whoa, Midoriya, where'd you get your costume? The only reteat in class asked, watching me put my mask on. My mom got it for me as a gift for making it into UA. I replied, pride in my voice as I noticed the head of spiky blonde hair in the mirror across from me. That's manly as hell, dude. He cheered, and I was left a little confused as he gave me a high five before he left, wearing what I could only describe as vestless sleeves made out of gears. It looked cool as hell, though, catching up so we could chat as we made our way to ground beta. 2 versus 2 indoor battles, each of us would be villains and heroes teams. First up are these. All Might yelled, sticking his hands in 2 containers, one marked villain, the other hero, and pulling out 2 balls with letters. The heroes are Team A. The villains are Team D. He announced, and I couldn't have put it any more poetic than that. The villain team goes in first. The timer starts in 5 minutes when the hero team sneaks in. The rest of you will watch via CCTV. All Might informed us, and I looked to my partner, Uraraka, giving her a big smile. Once we studied the building's blueprints, we talked a little bit and Uraraka asked me about Bakugo. Bakugo's the one who keeps trying to bully you, right? She asked, and I wondered how many times I'd have to have this conversation. Yeah. He may be a jerk, but he's amazing. His goals, his confidence, his quirk control, his willpower. All of it surpasses me in every way. A short pause, adjusting my mask. But that's why I don't want to lose to him. I was determined to win, I knew how he'd fight me, how I'd need to be on my toes. But I had a plan. As soon as time was up for the villains to prepare, I picked up Uraraka and lifted her to the roof, my legs aching a little, but I'd been training hard. I'm going back to the bottom floor. Odds are that only one of them is guarding the bomb. Probably Iida, but be prepared to dodge Bakugo. His close-range attacks are no joke. We'll sweep the floors, but odds are that the bomb is somewhere around the middle floors. I told her, offering my fist to her with a smile. She bumped mine back and I wondered if she could see my smile, but I liked hers. It was cute. Then I felt stupid for thinking that in the middle of a training exercise. We're gonna win because we're a team. She told me, and I watched her head tilt slightly before I felt goosebumps on my arm, pulling her out of the way of an explosion. Bet the bomb. If you can, use stealth and win this quickly. I told her, half my mask burned off, but I didn't let that kill my smile. Right. Good luck, Midoriya. She told me, running to the roof entrance while Bakugo and I stared one another down. You come here often, or did you make the trip just to see me? I quipped, my feet shoulder width apart to allow for easy movement and a solid base to attack and defend from, my elbows tucked in to allow straighter punches and protect from body strikes, my hands were a little higher with my palms facing outwards. Just like my sensei had taught me. You know why I'm here, Midoriya? Bakugo told me, getting ready to lunge at me. Yeah. All of our issues, and of the pain and hurt, we settle it here. I replied, my feet moving before I could think, Bakugo launching himself at me, the two of us ready to strike before our fist collided, and I sent him backwards, over the side of the roof. It took everything I had to overpower him, jumping after him. You won't get away that easy, villain. I won't let you hurt anyone else. I called, playing into the role as I caught him, holding him to me before I punched downwards, just before he hit the ground, and we went tumbling, my grip on him. That's where you're wrong, hero. I'm gonna beat you. He yelled, playing his role with an actual smile, and I felt my heart flutter a little. Uraraka, I've got one of the villains outside the building. It's up to you to defuse the bomb. I told her, letting go of my communication device and looking at Bakugo. Come on, Kakin, don't leave me waiting. I screamed, feeling a warm, powerful feeling inside me as we looked at each other before he made the first move, blasting himself at me quickly. You asked for it, Deku. Chapter 2. Accidentally getting a date. He was fast, and his maneuverability was incredible, but I hadn't spent months breaking my body and working to build it back together to lose now. This reminds me of when we were kids, and you'd come over. We were always playing hero, and you'd never let yourself lose, especially if you were the hero. I tried to distract him, hoping to come up with a plan to do that quickly. Damn right. And I won't let you win just because you got a quirk now. I'm still gonna kick your banana. He yelled, launching himself and blasting, spinning himself into a punch to my jaw that he ended with a powerful blast, knocking me through the side of the building. The gloves are coming off. No more holding back. I told him, running quickly and aiming a kick towards his head, watching him barely dodge before I twisted, kicking him in the stomach and sending him and pressing my arm. Uraraka, you have the bomb in sight yet? I asked, counting to 3 before Bakugo got back up, and I grinned. Next time, I'd only have seconds to start moving. I see it, second floor, but Iida isn't making this easy for me. I could use some backup if you call her calm cut, and I cracked my knuckles. Okay, Kakin. I've got to help my teammate. I'm gonna end this. Full power from now on. I said, filling myself slowly with the power of one for all, green sparks of electricity coming off of me as I blanketed the power over me evenly. I made the first move, my fist in his stomach, before he could dodge, following up with a quick kick to the side, knocking him into an empty building. Damn. Too much. I wish I'd regulated my power better. I mumbled, turning to the other building where Uraraka was and running towards it, not hearing the bricks shifting behind me, but I heard him yell, die. And watched him pull the pin on his arm grenades, both of them aimed at me. About damn time. We're playing for keeps. I told him, channeling as much energy into my arm, that blanket wrapped around my left before he let out that explosion, and I punched the sky with every ounce of strength I had, watching the air pull up the force of his explosion, blowing up high above the tallest building around us. Looks like I'm keeping everything. And breaking physics. Huh, cool. I told him, moving to catch him before he could fall, laying him down as gently as could before I ran to help Uraraka. I jumped through the window, sliding on my heel for a second before following the sounds of fighting, getting tired. I hadn't used my full power like this yet. My body wasn't used to this. I wanted to fight, to keep this feeling going, but I could hardly think, my head spinning as I ran into the room, unable to keep going at full power, but I could still move. Iida. Behind you. I yelled, picking up a small rock and throwing it, hitting the side of his helmet, watching him turn, distracted. It's me. I'm behind you. I told him, my muscles cramping up, and I fell to the ground, watching Uraraka run to the bomb, hugging it with a laugh. We did it. Midoriya, we did it. She whooped, All Might's voice coming on the intercom and announcing that yes, we did win. I was taken to Recovery Girl, who surprised me by telling me she'd healed All Might when he'd first started training One for All back in the day. Oh man, you know. Well, at least I don't have to lie. I told her with my body covered in muscle relaxing cream. What about my friend, Bakugo? Is he okay? I asked, and she nodded. I looked him over in the field. Once he woke up, he tried to go after you, but then the whole thing ended. No need to worry, dear. I spent a little bit resting until my muscles didn't hurt so much, just a little sore, and going back to class once I could move properly. Ugh, Aizawa sensei doesn't make too big a deal about this. I grumbled, a little tired and cranky as I walked into class, getting swarmed by a few people, including that redhead from the locker room and Ishido. Whoa. My quirk isn't super hearing. One at a time, geez. I yawned out, looking at their faces. Oh, right. My bad. I'm Ijiro Kirishima. We were all just discussing the battle training. He told me, patting me on the back hard. I'm Tsuyu Asui. Just call me Tsuyu. The girl with the frog quirk spoke, and I felt my face go red. Was every girl this cute, or was I just a simp? And I'm Sato. The giant guy with big lips told me, pointing his thumb into his chest. Do I need to introduce myself again? Ishido teased, batting her long eyelashes and finally drawing a grin from me. The words fell out of my mouth before I could think. It's not like I did a lot of that around her anyway. No need. I couldn't possibly forget someone as cute as you are. I watched her face slowly go from pink to red, and I like knowing that I made her blush this time. Oh, Midoriya. Are you feeling better? Uraraka asked, walking away from the blonde guy with the lightning bolt pattern in his hair. Oh, better. Well, I need a good night's sleep, but other than that, I'm fine. I told her as Iida came over and joined the little group we'd made. The 7 of us joked and talked until the end of class, grabbing our stuff. Packin'. Where do you think you're going? Who am I going to ride the train with if you're off sulking? I called, watching him turn around to look at me. He was clearly pissed about losing. You gotta be kidding me, Deku. After this morning and then that battle training earlier, why would I want to hang around you? He asked me, not yelling, not loud, just a little lost. Because that's what friends do, duh. Come on. We don't bite. Well, I don't know about Kirishima, but the rest of us don't. I told him, making a little joke at Kirishima's expense, looking at him laugh and hoping I didn't hurt his feelings. Fine, but only because I can catch a later train. He grumbled, hanging around the rest of us just far enough he could be grumpy in peace. The rest of the group was talking, enjoying the few minutes before they had to leave, but I was fulfilling a promise to Ishido, sketching her, making sure to do my best. I owed her that after making her wait this long for it. You know, if you weren't so close to the ground, I could see you properly. I joked, even though I wasn't much taller myself. She stuck her tongue out at me, making me chuckle before shooting back, a mischievous look in her eyes as she batted those eyelashes again. If you're having trouble, maybe you should get a closer look. She told me quietly, moving forward on her tippy toes, inches from my face, watching my brain absolutely melt at her words as I tried to babble out a reply before she put her finger to my lips. Izuku, you should really stop. If I have to keep flirting back, I'm not sure you can take it. She told me, smiling innocently at me. I like Katsuden. I spoke loudly. They were the only words I could think of before a goofy laugh left my lips. She made me feel like I was going crazy but in a nice way. She laughed and moved away again, and once I could think again, I finished my sketch. You have little freckles on your nose and upper cheeks, just under your eyes. I told her, still a little himbo-brained, but I just smiled at her and handed her the drawing. Maybe we could hang out again, just the 2 of us I mean, if you want to. I know you're probably busy, so feel free to say no. I stopped when I felt her kiss my cheek, putting the sketch away carefully. I'd love to. I'm gonna visit my grandma on Sunday, but after that I'm free all day. Let's meet up at that arcade again, say 3 or so. We can text and hammer out more details later. I gotta go through Izuku, but text me tonight, okay? She asked, watching me nod a little before she turned and walked away. Not bad, Deku. You got taste, at least. Kirishima told me, offsetting Iida saying that going on a date would be a bad idea since we need to focus on our studies, the 2 of them arguing until Bakugo dragged me to the train station. Dude, I think I just asked a girl out on a date. I mumbled, Bakugo rolling his eyes. Nah shit. Dumbus. I almost felt bad about setting up a date in front of the guy I'd kissed only a few hours beforehand, and then I remembered how many of his handprints were burned onto my skin, and I didn't feel so bad. Jesus, I'm an idiot. I don't know anything about dating girls. Not unless you count the stuff from those shows my mom watches. Even then, a lot of that is just what not to do. It was stupid, I was nervous, I didn't have any ideas on how to deal with this, but at the same time, I didn't regret it. Any ideas? I asked Bakugo, who shrugged. You're on your own on this one. He told me, leaving me with the feeling that Bakugo had been on as many dates as I had. I texted Mina, wondering why she'd hang out with me. I wasn't the most handsome guy, I wasn't the most ripped, and I wasn't the smartest. The thought flashed that she might actually like me for me, and I felt happy and warm with that thought. We texted until later than I'd normally be awake, making plans, sending funny pictures, and just talking. I'm pretty sure I fell asleep with a smile. The next day, we voted for class president, and for whatever reason, I ended up getting the position of class president while Yayoi Rozu was vice president. Why? I haven't led anything since I was like 11, and even then, that was a line for All Might merch. I told them, confused about the process. I'd voted for Iida, but it looked like I was the only one who did. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, Midoriya. Just roll with it. Kirishima called, and I took my seat. Yep. Rolling with things. That's me. I mumbled, setting my head down and sighing. Lunch felt like it came much quicker than usual, our normal lessons much more fun. Maybe it was having heroes for teachers, but I had never been so active in a classroom. As we ate, the only thing anyone wanted to talk about was the results of our election until an alarm went off, a third year telling us that it meant someone was in the building. Everyone was running, blocking the exit. They were going to trample someone. Someone could get hurt. Make me float. I told Uraraka, our hands briefly touching before I maneuvered awkwardly up to the top of the exit sign, barely holding onto a pipe before screaming at the top of my lungs. Everyone. Everything is okay. It's just the press. Start acting like you have brains in your heads and behave like you're people and not baboons. It calmed the crowd who managed to evacuate and let the police shoo away the reporters who'd managed to make it onto campus, everyone going back to their homeroom classes. I'm confident now that my vote did not go to waste. Yayoi Rozu told me as I rubbed my neck awkwardly. Well, jury's still out on how I feel about it, but your words are very humbling. I'll do my best to be a good class president. I promised, but I wondered still about who else had enough faith in me to vote for me. The next couple of days were a blur of books and hero coursework, but I could keep up pretty easily. After all, I'd spent years researching every aspect of heroism, so my main worry was my regular schoolwork, but even I needed a day to rest my brain, which left my brain working harder than ever as I tried to figure out what I was doing for this hangout date. I mean, it was a date, right? She kissed my cheek. But then again, it could have been strictly a friendly thing. Odd, I'd pay good money to know what people were thinking. No more guessing around girls. I grumbled, picking out a nice pair of shorts and a plain t-shirt. Between that and my red shoes, I didn't look too bad. Okay, Izuku, you got this. You got this. I mumbled, standing in front of the mirror and looking at my hair. I'd tried so hard to slick it back, but it just refused. Making it slightly neat seemed impossible. Oh, I know that look. Your father had the same look every single time he'd come and pick me up for a date. My mom told me, watching me look at myself, an unknown feeling in my stomach. Oh honey, whoever it is, they wouldn't have agreed to meet with you unless they already liked the way you looked. Don't think too much into it, okay? She told me, patting my cheek lovingly. You're surprisingly calm about me not mentioning that I'm going on a date. I told her, finally tearing my eyes from the mirror. You need me to be calm right now. Now, when's your date? She asked, getting a stool. 3. I'm meeting a girl at the arcade. I told her, glancing at my phone. It wasn't yet 1, and I'd already gotten as ready as I could. Yep. That was me, a chronic overthinker. Let me show you a trick that I learned taming your father's hair for our wedding. She told me, a basket of hair supplies in her hand, my mother spending the next half hour fighting back the waves of curls until my curls laid neatly on me head, showing them off while looking nice. You're a genius. I told her, touching my locks gently with a small smile. No, I'm a mother. She told me, and I could see pride on her face. Same thing. I replied, hugging my mom, muttering softly. Thank you. 2:30 came faster than I wanted, waving goodbye to my mom before heading out to the arcade early. It gave me time to gather myself before I got a glimpse of Ishido in the crowd, and I felt a goofy grin sneak up on my face. She was wearing loose-fitting black pants and a long-sleeved shirt with the word acid on it in English. Wow, you clean up nice, Izuku. She teased, winking with a large grin on her face. My mom helped me. I told her, feeling my face heat up. We'd met up 10 seconds ago, and I already brought up my mom. God, I felt stupid. She didn't think it was too weird. Aw, that's so sweet. My parents have completely different hair than me or my brother. In fact, my dad's never had hair before. She told me all about her family, the two of us walking around the city for a little bit. I'd scheduled the bulk of our meetup for 4, and we'd make it with time to relax and see the local shops. I know this is a dumb question, but is this like a friend hangout or a date? I mean, you kissed my cheek and we've been texting like crazy, so I just want to make sure I'm not misinterpreting anything. I told her, my face redder than I could ever remember. Well, I thought it was a date, but if you want to, we can just call it a hango, and this time it my turn to interrupt her, leaning over and kissing her cheek. Definitely a date. I told her, feeling my heart beating like crazy. It was one thing when a girl kissed a boy. I hope she didn't think I was some pervert. Works for me. She replied, but it was like she had no air in her lungs. Cool. Was all I could say, my face hot, but I didn't feel embarrassed, just elated that this was happening. We window shopped around, and I could see her admiring a pink and black tiger strip jacket. You got unique taste. Not bad, just different. I told her, looking at the jacket. I didn't and still don't understand fashion. She turned, getting too close for comfort, but I didn't want her to move either. I keep telling you that like weird and different. Slowly, I nodded and she pulled away, thoroughly pleased with herself for making my brain feel fuzzy, looking back to the jacket while I looked at her, that stupid smile back. An alarm went off on my phone and I snapped back to reality. We should get going. They close at 6, we don't want to be late. I muttered, turning off the alarm. Come on, Izuku, you're in no shape to be taking the lead. She told me, grinning and taking my hand, my brain going back on vacation while she led us to the aquarium and I pulled up my phone to scan us in. See? Don't think for a little bit. Trust me, it's more fun. She whispered, the two of us going from exhibit to exhibit, mostly the ones she liked best, but I stopped by the koi pond, taking in their beauty. They weren't so bad when they weren't trying to eat my notebooks. She seemed to especially like the colorful fish, stopping by a tank of them to take a picture of them, and then a selfie of the two of us. I was confused until I saw that one pink and one green one were swimming peacefully next to one another. The universe really liked giving me symbolism, it seemed. Not that I was particularly upset. I was just happy Ashido seemed to like me. She seemed to really like the seal, too, but I couldn't think of a single person who'd hate seeing one. You know, this is nice. Usually, learning kind of makes me bored, but I don't mind so much when I'm leaning with you. She told me, reading the sign next to the seal exhibit. Well, normally, I'd stop to read every sign and do more research when I go home. But I just like being around you. I told her, leaning against the wall and watching her. Ooh, we bring out good things in each other. She teased, finally looking up. You make my brain go all fuzzy until I forget how to talk sometimes, but I like when you do it. I know. She took my hand again, past all the exhibits. And cool fish we'd already seen and through the gift shop, back out to the front of the aquarium. Ashido, where are we going? I asked, and she turned her head to look at me. We're literally on a date. Call me Mina. She told me the two of us walked slowly through the streets, finally coming up upon the train station, standing there silently for a moment. I had a good time today. Thank you, Izuku. I liked the way she said my name. It made me feel warm. This was great. Time passed so quickly, but that's okay. We can always do this again sometime. I mean, if you'd like to. My reply was learned, read off the internet, but I meant it too. So you're already asking me out on another date. She pretended to think about it, stroking her chin like she had a beard. Well, normally, I'd say no, but you're cute, so I guess I don't mind. Her train pulled into the station, and she let go of my hand. Oh, before I forget. She turned, kissing me, just for a second, but it felt like forever, I didn't want it to stop. See you tomorrow, Izuku. She waved, getting on the train, and I think I waved back, but no matter how much I tried to say goodbye, it came out as incoherent babbling. She liked me enough to kiss me, and I was so lost in my own world that it wasn't until the train whistled that I finally managed to put myself together enough to go home, still in a daze when I walked through the door. I lunched the next day, all of my classmates could tell something was different. Sure, I could daydream now and again, but I had never had my head so far in the clouds that I couldn't hold a full conversation without thinking about that darned kiss. Okay, spill the tea, Midoriya. I gotta know what happened. Uraraka finally demanded at lunch, and I immediately got confused. What happened? I asked, eating my rice and thinking. Your date. What happened? She asked, and I understood what she asked, but I needed to figure out how to answer. We walked around, window shopped, went to the aquarium, and then we waited for her train together. It was abridged, but it was the truth. Oh, you're leaving out the best parts, Izuku. I heard Mina speak, but I didn't see her standing and spotting her at the table behind mine, hidden by the shrubbery. Well, how much am I supposed to tell them? I asked, moving around so I could see her. What about holding hands and kissing my cheek? She offered, and I blushed. It was one thing to do it alone, but for other people to know, it was weird. Yeah, that happened too. I mumbled, and she lifted my chin with one finger. Oh my god, she knew exactly what she was doing. What about asking me on another date the same day? Speaking of, 3 dates in a couple of days. Does that make us dating? she asked, leaving a pause long enough to make sure I was thoroughly enamored by her as last night. My parents would like to see me with someone as cute and nerdy as you. You might even be able to teach me with a thing or two. She flirted, and I couldn't form a thought, focusing on the second part of her sentence. I can help you with learning, but I'm not the best at math. I swallowed, my heart beating much too quickly. Did you miss the first half of that, dude? She's asking you out. Kirishima told me, and I nodded. I heard. I'm just doing my best to remain calm and not freak out. I mumbled, Mina squishing my cheeks and making me lean down to her level. Wow, your eyes are really pretty. I managed to get out, and she raised an eyebrow. Is that a yes? She asked, watching me nod slowly. Yeah, that sounds good. Good. And since you've paid for the last 2 times we've gone out, today's on me. Let's get some matcha. She told me, poking my nose and going back to her meal, leaving me to wander off with that dopey smile on my face. After lunch, Aizawa got up in the front of the classroom. The day's basic hero training will be supervised by All Might, myself, and one other. Suit up at your own discretion. Some of your costumes aren't equipped for what you'll be doing. Zero interrupted. What exactly will we be doing? Preparing for disaster relief, from fires to floods. It's rescue training. Aizawa told us, and we were all excited as we suited up and got on the bus. Midoriya, you didn't even try to organize the seating. Iida chastised, watching me shrug. Okay. If we need seating charts, I'll make them, but my job as class president is to make sure my peers grow as strong as possible. I replied, pulling out my phone and looking for affordable gear that would enhance my own and my classmates' quirks. I generally say what's on my mind, Midoriya. Asui spoke up, and I turned to her. And what exactly is that? I asked, turning my head left to look at her. Their quirk resembles All Might's. She was nonchalant, but she was sharp. I knew people would pick up on it eventually, and I'd already gotten an excuse ready. About a year ago, when I thought I was quirkless, All Might rescued me from a villain and told me I could be a hero if I worked hard enough. He's the reason I started training and why I figured out that I have a quirk. I modeled everything from my workouts to my costume after All Might, watching every video I could find online. I guess that with a strength-enhancing quirk makes the similarities more visible. It was as close to the truth as I could get without lying entirely or revealing my secrets. But All Might also doesn't get intense muscle spasms when he uses his quirk. At least, I hope not. That would suck for him. Kirishima spoke up, letting me sit back a little and avoid the limelight. But that sort of strength-enhancing quirk is awesome. You can do all sorts of things with it. He told me, flexing his hardened arm. Your quirk is super cool. It's more than enough to let you go, pro. I argued, Aoyama speaking up. Pro. But don't forget that heroes must also worry about appeal. He cried dramatically, putting a hand to his forehead. My naval laser is strong and cool, perfect for a hero. As long as you don't blow up your stomach. Mina spoke from my right, Aoyama looking uncomfortable. You want cool and strong? That's Bakugo and Todoroki. Hagakure spoke up, Asui pointing at Bakugo. He's so unhinged. He'll never be popular. She spoke, angering the spiky-haired blonde. What did you say, frog face? He yelled, leaning over the barrier in front of his seat. See? The frog girl replied simply. We've only barely started socializing, and already you've made it abundantly clear to us the unpleasantness of your steamed turd of a personality. Kaminari told him, making him even angrier. Yeah, okay, Mr. Vocabulary. How about I pound you? He yelled, and I laughed. Wording Kakin. That doesn't sound scary so much as you're flirting. I told him, Bakugo narrowing his eyes and sitting back and murmuring under his breath. What a vulgar conversation. Yaoi Rozu spoke, holding a hand over her mouth. I think it's fun. Uraraka laughed, Iida getting onto me. I never thought you'd be the one with the foul mouth, Midoriya. Forsham. We're here. Look sharp. Aizawa yelled, all the chatter stopping until we got off the bus and into the huge building in front of us. Whoa, this place is huge. Kaminari admired, and he was right. For a minute, I wondered if this was Universal Studios Japan. There's the flood zone, landslide zone, conflagration zone act. Every disaster and accident you can imagine. I built this facility myself. I call it the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. 13, the space hero spoke, and Uraraka seemed pretty excited to meet her. Aizawa and 13 spoke with one another, the two of them breaking away from us before 13 came back. Before we get started, I have 1 or 2 points. Or 3. Lots of points. 4. She spoke, looking at us as seriously as someone could with a glass fishbowl helmet. My quirk is called Black Hole. It can suck in and tear anything apart. However, my power could easily kill. I've no doubt there are some among you with similar abilities. In our superpowered society, the use of quirks is heavily restricted and monitored. It may seem that this system is a stable one. But we must never forget that it only takes one wrong move with an uncontrollable quirk for people to die. During Aizawa's physical fitness test, you came to learn of your own hidden potential. During All Might's battle training, you experienced the danger that your respective quirk can pose to others. This class will show you a new perspective. You will learn how to utilize your quirks to save lives. Your powers are not meant to inflict harm. I hope you leave here today with the understanding that you're meant to help people. That is all. I thank you for listening. 13 gave a bow, Ida clapping and yelling. Bravo. Aizawa pointed, ready to instruct. Great. First off. He stopped as a swirl appeared below us, growing bigger in the center until a hand reached out, then a full body, then dozens of them, so many I couldn't count them all, but well over 100. Aizawa looked to us now, yelling orders. Huddle up and don't move. 13, protect the students. We were all confused. Kirishima was the first to speak. What the heck's that? More battle robots. Like during the entry exam. Aizawa had already turned away, moving his goggles down over his eyes. Don't move. Those are villains. 13 and Eraserhead, is it? According to the staff schedule I received the other day, All Might is supposed to be here, one of them spoke, Aizawa looking down at them. Of course, this whole thing was this scum's doing. The hero spoke, eyeing the villains carefully. One of the villains, one with hands on his face and arms, muttered loudly enough that we could all hear him. Where is he? We've come all this way. And brought so many playmates. All Might, the symbol of peace, is he here? He scratched at his neck, looking around before muttering again. I wonder if some dead kids will bring him here. Aoirozu looked at 13. Sensei, are there intruder sensors? Yes, of course there are. 13 replied, Todoroki looking down at all the villains. Are they only here or also at the main building? Either way, if the sensors aren't working, it has to be one of their quirks that's doing it. This place is far from the campus. And they picked a time when there be few people here, so maybe they're not as dumb as they seem. They must have an objective. Because this is a well-coordinated sneak attack. 13. Begin evacuation. And try calling the school. One of these villains must be jamming the sensors. There's a good chance one of their electric types is causing interference. Kaminari. Try using your quirk to signal for help. Aizawa was calm, giving orders to us. But sensei. You can't fight them all alone. I argued, pulling his arm to stop him. Against that many even you can't nullify all their quirks. As Eraserhead, your fighting style involves erasure and a quick binding capture. Head-on battle isn't, but he cut me off. No good hero is a one-trick pony. He told me, pulling his arm away. 13. Take care of them. My teacher became the most baddest person I knew, facing off against a small army of villains. We weren't heroes. We weren't supposed to be fighting. We were training, so one day we could fight, but right now, we weren't supposed to do this. We turned to leave, and the Black Mist villain stopped us, covering the doors. Greetings. We are the League of Villains. Forgive our audacity, but today we come here to UA High School, this bastion of heroism, to end the life of All Might, the symbol of peace. We were under the impression that All Might would be here today, but it seems his schedule was revised. Well, no matter. My role remains unchanged. He spoke, very polite for someone who wanted to help kill us. I don't know when my feet started moving, but Kirishima and Bakugo were next to me, the three of us attacking the Mist Man, my hand hitting something solid. Ah. Students, though you may be, you are the best of the best. Begin, wither in torment, until you breathe your last. He told us, the blackness swallowing us up and spitting me out in the waters of the flood zone. It had to be his quirk, but I was too busy to worry about that, flicking my finger and hitting a shark guy on his stomach, watching him fly back. Something wrapped around my stomach, and suddenly, I was dragged to the surface of the water. Sayu. Thanks, I'm not the best swimmer. I told her, getting dropped on the deck of the ship. For a frog, she's got pretty nice boobs. Mineta mumbled, getting thrown up on the ship. Seriously? Our lives are in danger, and you're worried about boobs. Gross. I surveyed the area, Sayu climbing onto the boat as well. Plenty of villains in the water. Seems they don't know our quirks, or they wouldn't have sent you here, Sayu. They said they came here to kill All Might when the media broke in, they must have been behind that too. I mumbled, looking around. But, there's no way they could ever kill All Might. He'll thrash him once he gets here. Bam. Pow. Mineta tried to tell us, but Sayu had figured out what I had to. They must have figured out a way to kill him. Otherwise, why come here just to get beaten? I mean, I wouldn't put it past them, that one guy promised to kill us too, after all. Who says we can even hold until All Might gets here? Even when he does show up, who says he won't be killed? I thought about it, I didn't know why they wanted him dead, but if they were, then they had to have had a better reason than because he was the top hero. If there's even a chance that they have a way to beat All Might, then we've got a job to do. I told them, taking note of their quirks and coming up with a plan. We have a fight to win. I yelled, looking to them with a smile. Mineta, flood the water with as many of your balls as you can. I told him, watching him panic and throw as many as he could on all sides before I fiddled with my belt, throwing the few support items I could get approved into the water. What are those? Sayu asked, and I just smiled. I had to smile now, like All Might would if he was here. One of the villains began to hit the boat we were on, cracking it. Crap, speed it up, Mineta. I yelled, getting my arms ready. Midoriya, what are you doing? Sayu asked, and I swallowed the urge to puke. Something stupid. Speaking of, he and I need a rescue. I told her, jumping over the side and pulling my arm back. Urkayon smayayosh. I yelled, throwing the water, ship, villains, and my smoke bombs into a big mess, Sayu picking up Mineta and jumping using her tongue to catch a pipe and grab me, the three of us tumbling into a clear patch of water and swimming to the edge of the zone. Nice teamwork. We should try to get help now and avoid the plaza entirely. Giving orders, it felt weird, but it was necessary. The only reason we'd made it through our first battle was because of our combined skills and a good strategy, even if I did gamble a little. Right. It looks like Aizawa-sensei is drawing a large number of them to the plaza. Sayu pointed out, and I could see him. There were too many to take on his own, but he chose to protect us. There must have been a look on my face, and Mineta seemed worried. Hey. Don't tell me you're that stupid, Midoriya. I could help. To just stand around doing nothing, it wasn't what a hero would do. You guys get to the exit. We need backup, and we need it yesterday. I took a deep breath, concentrating on properly layering the power inside me. Not my full power, just enough I could help. Once I had it where I needed it, I took off, knocking into one of them at full force. Midoriya, I told you to stay back. Aizawa told me, my smile as big as ever as he took another one down. Before or after we got teleported around and started to fight for our lives? I asked, hitting a big one and watching him smash into a skinny-looking villain. My orders don't have exceptions. He yelled, my fist pulled back, my power rising. Yeah? Well, if you died, what kind of hero would that make me if I just stood around and not helped? I asked, punching with enough force throw around everyone but Aizawa, the weird hand guy, and the giant mutant guy who'd been standing around waiting. No more cannon fodder. Those guys, they're the real deal, aren't they, sensei? I asked, looking at two villains. The real deal. Midoriya, you'll have to go all out now. Don't stop until we've won. He told me, and I nodded, raising my strength to the full power I had inside. So cool, so cool. I knew a pro hero like you wouldn't have much problem with these guys, but your students have decimated my forces. The hand guy clapped, the mist man coming over to his side. Tamura Shigaraki. He spoke to the hand guy, Shigaraki. Kurogiri. Is 13 dead? He asked, eyeing his misty ally. He's incapacitated, but there were some students I couldn't warp away, and one of them escaped. He told him, the hand guy getting agitated. Kurogiri, I'd turn you to dust if you weren't our ticket out of here. It's game over, man. Game over for now. We're leaving. He turned, looking to me. But first. Let me wound the symbol of peace's pride. He was quick, trying to attack Mineta, but Aizawa was faster, restraining him while I hit the giant monster guy, knocking him. You low, cowardly, ignorant, piece of fucking shit. I yelled, my anger taking over rational thinking, as I managed to hold my own against the beastly thing. Who the fuck do you think you are? I knocked it upwards, grabbing its arm and tossing it back down into the fire zone. Fear not. I am here. I could hear, but I couldn't think about that. I had to keep pushing this thing, weakening it so it couldn't hurt anyone else. The blast hit the thing, and I laughed. I was going all out on this thing, hardly keeping it at bay, while Bakugo could come up and blast it. That's why you're going to fail, Tamura Shigaraki. You think you just have to fight All Might, but everyone here is willing to do their part and fight. I yelled, jumping up while Bakugo distracted it, turning in the air and feeling my feet against a beam. Move Kaken. I yelled, a split second, and then I pushed off, rushing at it. Both my arms were pulled back to hit it in the head, but this time, I could feel that I was doing more than just holding it back. You got 30 seconds until I need to blink, problem child. Aizawa yelled, the two of us hitting it with all had, ice freezing its legs in place, tape wrapping around its arms, Kirishima joining our assault. Once more we hit thing up, and this time, Tokoyami sent it flying back down into the pavement. You may have heard these words before, but today you'll learn what they really mean. Everyone, all together. Anyone who could got in position, and I pulled my fist back one last time. Rocks and anything that could be thrown hitting the beast as it got to its feet. Fluus Ultra. I drove my fist into its stomach, a blast helping accelerate how quickly it was flying upwards. Flames shot out from somewhere, Kaminari was thrown on it, giving a blast before he fell off, caught by its eye, purple balls were stuck to it, I could see parts of it melting, a cannonball being shot at it before it was gone, leaving a hole in the roof. I held my arm, which was bruised and bleeding a little from Bakuga's blast. No, no, no. I was promised a weakened All Might. But these kids, they prove that All Might isn't weak at all. The mist swirled around Shigaraki, and despite All Might, myself, Bakugo and Todoroki doing what we could to stop them, the duo left. I fell to my knees, exhausted beyond anything I'd ever known, and it took everything we all had, but it was gone. We'd won. I laughed quietly at first, then loudly, unable to move as my muscles spasmed. I'd pushed further than I ever should, but I didn't regret it even as I fell to the ground, feeling someone catch me. "Hey Kakin." I mumbled, passing out in his arms. This had been the start of something more sinister. I slept all the way back to school, the final bell ringing before anyone woke me. "Deku, wake the hell up." Bakugo's voice interrupted my nap, and I laid there a moment before I sighed and sat up. My friends were here, waiting for me to wake up in the nurse's office. "Well, aren't I the luckiest guy in the world?" I asked, my arm bandaged. "Well, time to get going, huh? Oh, Mina, I'll have to take a rain check on this date, sorry." I stood, Bakugo pushing my bag into my chest. "You were like a completely different person back there. Are you okay?" Mina asked, and I laughed softly. I probably wasn't, but they didn't need to know that. "I'm fine, no need to worry." I tried to reassure them, and I counted how many people were in the room now. It seemed like everyone but a few had come to visit me. Out. How many times do I have to kick you all out?" Recovery girl told them, brandishing her cane and smacking the legs of anyone who didn't leave, driving them away as well. "It's good to see you awake. I would have used my quirk, but you don't have the stamina to spare." The elderly nurse told me, the door opening once more, All Might walking in, his true form looking so different from the angry giant I'd seen earlier. "Young Midoriya, I am proud of you. Already, you're coming into your power, making it your own. I always knew you were, but this proves that you deserved my quirk," he told me, taking a seat next on the bed next to mine. "Your belief in my power has left this old relic shine still, enough that for now the world has a symbol to look to. Thank you," he told me, giving me a smile. I returned, crying a little bit. "Lovely. Now off with you, and come see me in the morning," Recovery girl told me, and I admit, that old woman scared me more than the villains did, slipping my shoes on and heading out the door, running into Bakugo. "You fucking liar." He pushed me, storming off while I could hardly manage to catch myself from falling. "Ah, that is unfortunate." All Might spoke, a new problem on top of all the others, running off after him. "High school sucks," I decided, gathering myself and following after them. "Kakin, come on, let me explain, at least," I called out, falling against the wall. I was in no shape to go running, and he had a head start on me. "Fuck off, All Might," my blasty friend yelled, and I could actually hear a blast. I hoped All Might had the forethought to buff up while chasing Bakugo. I found All Might talking to Bakugo, who looked like he was barely keeping himself from hitting the hero. "Now that we're all together, come to my office," All Might told him, and I sighed, sending a text to my mother so she wouldn't worry. Or at least, she wouldn't worry as much. Once we were in the All Might's office, he dropped his buff form, Bakugo looking at him with wide eyes. He'd seen a glimpse of him before, but up close, the true form still looked a bit unsettling. Sitting on the soft furniture, I was in no mood to beat around the bushes. "Well, the sooner we drop a truth bomb, the sooner I can go home, right? I got my quirk from All Might, and it's a closely guarded secret. You don't think if I could go around bragging that my quirk was passed down from the freaking symbol of peace I would? You can't tell anyone because otherwise people would come after me trying to steal it." It was a simple explanation, but it'd have to do. "You lied to me, made me into a fool," the blonde boy argued, and I simply took off my jacket and began to unbutton my shirt. "Young Midoriya, what are you doing?" All Might asked, but I ignored him. "Made you look like a fool?" I asked, taking it off and standing. My skin was littered with handprints that had been burned into my body, scars from cuts that hadn't healed properly. "I spent every day since we were children taking your abuse. I give you every chance to turn your abusive behavior into something better. I even offered you the chance to be my friend again if you could ever get your shit together when you told me just under a year ago to fucking kill myself. Don't talk to me about feeling like a fool because I've played that part for you for 11 years. I put my shirt back on, slipping on my jacket and bag. "I'm sorry that I lied because All Might asked me to, but you don't really understand how big this is for me or the months of backbreaking labor I did to get this power." I paused, feeling anger that I'd kept inside too long pop up. "I was wrong to keep offering you my hand in friendship. You aren't worth it anymore." I left, slamming the door behind me before taking a deep breath and heading outside, a few of my classmates still lingering as I stormed by. Heading home meant getting a bear hug from my mom, and I had to remind her I still needed to breathe. "Oh, I'm just so glad you're okay. No broken bones or sprained ankles." She put her hand to my cheek, tears in the corners of her eyes. My poor mother who deserved peace of mind, and she'd been worried about me. "I don't mean to make you worry, Mom. I just do before I can think and worry about consequences later." That explanation probably only made her worry worse, but I was a kid who'd done the work of professional crime fighters. I was tired and scared a little, and I didn't know what the hell to say. That impulsiveness is called being a teenager, but I'll always worry about you, even when you're grown with a family of your own. She told me, giving me another hug before sending me off to my room, where I promptly passed out. The next day was weird because between an angry Bakugo ignoring me again, my hands still in bandages from the fighting for our lives the day before, and the fact that I was barely able to keep awake, I could still try and wonder about what school in their right mind would let a sports festival happen so soon after roughly 200 villains attacked a group of 20 students and 2 teachers. It was stupid enough that my faith in UA was shaken, because how could they suggest something so stupid? Compared to past years, there'll be 5 times the police presence. Anyhow, our sports festival is the greatest opportunity you'll get. It's not an event that can be cancelled over a few villains. Aizawa spoke, and I came back to the conversation, having zoned out a bit. I heard Mineta whispering behind me, clearly afraid. "You sure about that?" Putting on a smile, I turned to look at him. Smile. If All Might could do it, I could too. "Don't worry, Mineta. With that many pros, there's no way anyone would be stupid enough to mess with UA again." I tried to reassure him, turning away once he thought about it and seemed to relax a bit. "And as far as Japan is concerned, what's taken the place of the Olympics is the UA Sports Festival." Aizawa spoke, and I wondered what I'd missed. Once he finished speaking, the conversation really began. "The nation's top heroes will be watching, right?" Mineta asked, Yayoi Rozu answering for him. "They'll be there as scouts." She told him, much more calmly than some of our classmates. "They'll be looking to hire us as sidekicks after we graduate. That's how it's done." Kaminari pointed at himself, and I wondered how far he'd be able to go without being able to control his quirk's direction. And a lot of those sidekicks never managed to go solo. They're sidekicks forever. "That'll be you, Kaminari, you dunce." Jiru told him, and I had to admit, jokes were funnier when I wasn't the only one being made fun of. Aizawa coughed and got our attention again, all of us turning to him. "Naturally, you'll gain valuable experience if you're picked up by a big-name hero. But your time is limited. Show the pros what you're made of here and you'll make futures for yourselves. This happens once a year so you've got 3 chances. If you're hoping to become a hero, this is an event you can't miss." He told us, gathering excitement and making sure we knew how serious this was. Around lunchtime, the excitement had grown, a group of my classmates all standing around and discussing it, while Uraraka got a serious look on her face, speaking to Iida and I. "Midoriya Iida at this sports festival, let's do our best," she told us, and even others took notice of this change. "What the? You're not looking very Uraraka," Ashido told her, and I could see Tsuyu slapping Mineta with her tongue. "Don't know what he did, but maybe use your hand next time. I'm sure he gets a kick out of you using your tongue," I suggested, and I was really starting to dislike the midget. It seemed like my comment went unheard, Uraraka pumping her arm up in the air and shouting. "Everyone. I'm gonna crush this." "Yeah, but talk about inconsistent characterization." Kirishima shouted back, a little confused, but he had the spirit. I shrugged, the 3 of us making our way to the lunchroom. "Hey, you guys never told me why you want to be heroes." "I just want to be like All Might, but I'm a fanboy, and aren't we all, but not to the same extent." I spoke, putting my arms behind my head. "That is an easy answer for me, Midoriya. I wish to be a hero and live up to the Iida name." Iida spoke, chopping the air like a kung fu master. "Oh, money." Uraraka awkwardly laughed, rubbing her neck. "Fair enough. A job needs to be done, and you have the skills for it." I yawned, still tired from yesterday. "Sorry. I know it seems base and really embarrassing considering Iida's noble intentions and all." She apologized, blushing a little bit. "But why? There's really nothing wrong with seeking a more comfortable lifestyle," Iida told her, still chopping the air. "Yeah, just a little unexpected." I chimed in, hoping to make her less embarrassed. She rubbed her neck, letting out a little sigh. "My family owns a construction company, but business is bad, we're poorer than poor. Don't mention it to anyone, okay?" She told us, and I was kind of touched she trusted us with her secret. "Why not just get permission to use your quirk on the equipment and cut costs that way?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Right, that's what I told my dad way back. But she paused like she was lost in thought for a moment before coming back to us. So I'm gonna be a hero. I'll make that money so that mom and dad can have easier lives. But Leida praised her. I thought about her words until a voice pulled me out of my own head. Oh. Midoriya, kid. Found you. All Might's voice boomed, holding up a wrapped lunch. Wanna eat lunch with me? Rubbing my eyes to wake me a little, I held back a yawn. Is this about what I said yesterday? No. Well, perhaps if there's time, but I'd like to discuss something else with you. He told me, and I couldn't stop the yawn this time. Sure. I said goodbye to my friends and followed All Might to his office, where he transformed back into his skinny form and said. My limit is draining, and sooner than later, I'll have to step down entirely from this hero thing. He told me, a portable kettle giving him hot water for tea. That made sense. He only had an ember of one for all. At least, that's how he described it. I know, and since giving me one for all, I've tracked your overall sightings and how long you've worked during. Slowly, you're becoming less active. That's not new to me. What are you really trying to tell me? He nodded and leaned forward. I really want to talk about the sports festival. With my time running out, among those with villainous intents, there are some who have figured that out. I granted you my power so that you could succeed me. This sports festival, it's an event the whole country'll be watching. And that means just one thing for us. You. The next All Might, the fledgling symbol. I need you to tell the world I am here. I am here, huh? Well, when I win, I'll shout it out to the world so everyone can hear it. I told him, grinning at him before taking my own lunch and digging in. You're certainly confident you will win. He told me, watching me swallow, pounding my chest to get a particularly large bite down. I don't mean to downplay the strength of my classmates or the other courses, but when I use one for all, I can still feel something more growing inside me, like I'm close figuring something out, and I know that when push comes to shove, I'll go above my own limits to win. These words were of someone determined to win. I'd never guess what they'd lead me to doing. What do you mean when you say you're close to figuring something out? He questioned, looking at me with confusion and interest. I mean, when I let go of thought and just try to do, sometimes I felt this weightless feeling in my body, and as suddenly as it's there, it's gone. I told him, going back to my meal, finishing quickly. Being a hero in training worked up an appetite. My master once said something similar about her own quirk. That when she used it, it wasn't done with thought but rather instinct. Perhaps you've inherited a bit of her instinct as well, kid. He told me, coughing into his handkerchief before flashing a smile. Do you think she'd have approved of a skinny quirkless kid inheriting your power? I asked her, my stomach twisting. Ha. She'd love you, kid. You're as heroic as they come, and while you're a little cocky lately, you're gonna do great things. Pride flooded me, my stomach untwisted, and I blinked away tears before I could flood his office, the two of us sipping tea until the bell. After our last class, plenty of chatter came from the halls, but unlike usual, it lingered around our door, and when your Raka opened it, dozens of people I didn't know stood outside of it. What's going on? She cried, looking nervous in front of the crowd. No way. What are they doing here? Mineta asked, looking at them. Scoping out the competition. We're the kids who survived a villain attack. I answered, swinging my bag over my shoulder. No point, though. Move aside, cannon fodder. Bakugo told them, looking as friendly as ever. Can we please not resort to calling those we don't even know as cannon fodder? Iida asked, and I raised an eyebrow. I kinda wanted to see how this went. Don't mind Bakugo. He's the exceptionally arrogant amongst us. I, for one, look forward to testing my abilities against everyone here. I smiled, a sleepy-looking guy with purple hair stepping forward. Are all the kids in the hero course like this? Gotta say, I'm a little disillusioned if this is what you're offering. He rubbed his neck, but he didn't look nervous or awkward, just judging us. Those of us who didn't make the hero course are stuck in general studies and the other tracks. There are quite a few of us, did you know that? Depending on the results of the sports festival, they may even consider moving us to the hero course. I understand the opposite is true for you scoping out the competition. For a general studies student like me. This'll be a perfect chance to knock you off your pedestals. Consider this a declaration of war. He told us, turning on his heels and walking away. That guy is cool as hell. I hope he replaces Mineta. I cheered, watching him leave. Hey. Not cool. Mineta cried, and I didn't bother to look at him. Neither is physically harassing girls. I replied, another guy, this one with silvery gray around his eyes came into view, and he kind of reminded me of Kirishima just with gray hair and the eye things. Hey. I'm from class 1B, next door. Heard you guys fought some villains, wanted to figure it out more, but all I'm seeing is this arrogant bastard. He looked at Bakugo, and I laughed. Whoa, hey, it's all cool, man. We're gonna all have good clean fun. Izuku Midoriya, class president. I can't wait to see what cool quirks your class shows us. I'm so excited. I offered my hand and he took it hesitantly, his grip much firmer than my own before he pulled away. I'm Tetsu. Good to meet you. He told me, going about his way before Bakugo pushed past the others in the halls and left, the others kind of moving along with him. You really handled that well. Iida told me, and I shrugged. Honestly, I just want to prove I'm the best, and if everyone's against me, I have to work harder to do that. I whispered, taking my things and leaving. I see. Well, you've done a fine job regardless. Although now he looked at me with a brow raised as though he didn't approve. What? I'm fighting for the top. It's easier if I'm not fighting every course to get there. It was dumb. Everyone wanted the top spot and me being friendly wouldn't deter them. Determined to give it our all, each of us prepared in his or her own way. Those 2 weeks flew right by. Iida was more concerned with keeping everyone alert the day of, but I needed him to stop yelling in my ear. Is everyone good and ready? The event's about to begin. Yelled the blue tea, and I sighed. All you're doing is making everyone a little more anxious. I told him, patting him on the shoulder. He's got a point though. If you aren't ready, finish up. We're gonna go show the world the power of Class 1A and remind them of why an army of 2-bit loser villains couldn't take us or our sensei down. I tried to cheer them, getting most of them more excited. Midoriya. A lone voice spoke, flat and a bit bored sounding. Yeah? What's up, Todoroki? I turned to him with a smile, looking at him in the eyes. I could tell this was going to be serious. Objectively speaking, I'm stronger than you, more capable. All Might's got his eye on you, doesn't he? Now I'm not about to pry into why that is, but I will beat you. He told me, determined and fierce. Ooh. A declaration of war from the strongest in the class, Kaminari commented while I thought of how to reply. Hey, man, why pick a fight now? We're about to go on. Kirishima tried to calm the situation, but Todoroki had gotten me fired up as well now. I really don't care. I'm not pretending to be anyone's friend here. The half and half boy spoke, and I grinned at him. I'm not really sure why you felt the need to tell me you're going to beat me unless you're trying to psych me out. But everyone, even the kids from the other courses, are aiming for the top. I'm not gonna fall behind, I'm gonna go for it too, with everything I've got. I told him, feeling myself getting excited, hoping I got to have the chance to take him head on. Anyway, I'll see you later, Todoroki. It's almost time, and I got something I gotta do. I waved, switching up and heading over to Ishido. Hey, do I get a kiss for luck? We can make it into a little tradition. I flirted, watching her roll her eyes before kissing my cheek. You're such a hopeless nerd. Lucky for you, I've decided you're my hopeless nerd. She told me, taking her spot at the front of the line behind Aoyama before we all marched out, my own thoughts blocking the sounds of present Mick screaming. We walked out in a single file before spreading out in rows of 4, with 5 in a line like in our classroom. Slowly, the other class and courses came out, and I greeted the few that I'd seen with a wave. Up on the podium, Midnight the R-rated hero stood, making an announcement. Now for the athlete's oath. She called, while Tokoyami pondered if an R-rated hero should be in a high school, and Mineta told him to shut up. Pipe down. Your student representative is from Class 1A, Izuku Midoriya. She called, and I felt myself moving towards the podium. Couldn't they have warned me ahead of time? Must be because he came in first during the hero course entrance exam. I heard Zero whisper, looking at the crowd of my peers. The athlete's oath, make no mistake, we're all aiming for first place, and I'm no different. I'm going to give it my all to win, so we should all push past our limits and go beyond, plus ultra. I pumped my arm in the air with a great big grin. This is gonna be easier than I thought. A support corps student spoke, and I didn't argue. The results would show him how wrong he was. What riveting words. I can feel my own excitement rising. Midnight called, pausing for the cameras so guys at home could pretend they were talking to them. Now, without delay, let's get the first event started. These are the qualifiers. It's in this stage that so many are sent home crying every year. And the fateful first event this year is this obstacle race. She pointed, posing for the cameras before continuing again. It's a race between every member of all 11 classes. The course is a 4-kilometer lap around the stadium itself. Our school preaches freedom in all things. She laughed, leaving us wondering what was coming. So as long as you don't go off the course, anything is fair game. Racers to your positions. We lined up, and the gate was too narrow. Unless you were smart, you'd be left behind from people pushing and shoving to get through. A short countdown up top, red, 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 green, and Midnight yelled, start. All of them taking off while I waited a moment, powering up a little before I bended my knees, jumping over their heads, only a few people ahead of me, dodging Todoricus's ice and punching a robotic arm away from Mineta before it could smack him. Oh yeah, this is my Kindo obstacle course. I exclaimed. Todoroki froze the 0-pointers from our entrance exam. At least I thought that was he doing, just blocking the way and trapping most of us with them. I focused the power in my arms, pulling them both back before using my full power briefly and watching them break away, the ice behind them shattering as well. I moved past the wreckage, past anyone who'd kept moving, and up to my goal. Not bad, Todoroki, but it's not enough to keep me from catching up. You wanted a challenge. You've got one. I yelled, wrapped up in the competitiveness of it all. See ya. I pushed forward, leaving him behind me before I came up to a giant pit filled with stone pillars connected by only ropes, charging up and jumping it entirely. I heard them announce the minefield, jumping as far as I could and closing my eyes, plugging my ears, the explosion hard enough to knock me off my feet, but I opened my eyes long enough to get my bearing and jumping again, about a fifth of the minefield behind me as I kept going, over and over, a clear patch coming into view as I jumped one last time. My feet already moving as I pushed past the final stretch back into the stadium, holding my left arm above my head in triumph. Can my mom see me? Hi mom. I waved, grinning at a camera before they turned to the others, taking a seat in the grass and resting. Knowing UA, I'd need all the rest I could get. Rest didn't last long, Uraraka and Iida running over. Midoriya. That was awesome. She cheered for me, grabbing my shoulders and shaking me a little. First place though, man, I'm jealous. Iida was actually looking at his hands. To lose a race of all things, with my quirk it's clear I still have progress to make. He lamented a little, but I knew him well and don't worry about it. Knowing UA, coming in first was a bad thing. I joked, midnight announcing the next game. The top 42 from this qualifying round will move on. But for those who placed lower, don't worry. We've got more ways for you to show your stuff. She paused again, trying to build suspense, and I have to admit, she was doing a good job. And now the main selection begins. The press corporation's going to be jumping out of their seat, so give it all you've got. Now, onto the second event. I already know what it is, of course dying in suspense. Next up is this. She pointed at a screen, the words Cavalry Battle plaster up on it. Participants will, on their own, form teams of 2 to 4 members each and get into horse and rider formation. The rules are fundamentally the same as an ordinary cavalry battle. Snag your opponent's headbands while guarding your own, with one exception, each of you has been assigned a point value based on your rankings in the last event. We learn points like in the entrance exam? Sounds simple. Sato asked, rubbing his chin. So the point value of a team depends on its members. Hagakure pointed out, excitement in her voice. The crack came from a grumpy Midnight, or her whip at least. I'm about to explain that, so shut up already. She huffed, gathering herself before continuing. Anyway, yes. And your individual point values start at 5, at the bottom. So the student who took 42nd place is worth 5 points, 41 is worth 10, get it? But our first place participant is worth 10 million points. Suddenly, every eye was on me, but I had to keep cool. I could do this, couldn't I? Everyone was against me, but I could make it to first place again. I had to do it for All Might. No, I did it for myself. To prove I could. I grinned, trying to look as confident as I could as Midnight continued. The higher-ranked students are the ones to aim for. This is a chance for a comeback. It's anyone's game. The match will last 15 minutes. Each team's points are determined by its members. The rider will wear a headband displaying the total number of points. Until the match ends, you'll all have to compete to grab each other's points and maintain the ones you have. Any headbands you have must be worn around the neck or higher. But the more headbands you have, the harder they'll be to manage. Most importantly, even if your headband is taken, and even if your horse formation is broken, it's not over till it's over. A few of my classmates were whispering, but I was busy trying to figure out who'd make the best defense alongside my own quirk. Quirks are loud, so it'll be a brutal battle. However, it's still a cavalry battle. Maliciously attacking another team with the intent of making them fall will get you a red card. And that means you're out of the game. You've got 15 minutes. Time to form your teams. Midnight yelled, everyone running off to find teammates. Finding a partner wasn't as difficult as I thought it'd be, mostly because I'd shown off my quirk to classmates a dozen times over. Aw geez, I figured I'd have slim pickings. It was a little overwhelming, being so wanted, but I felt a hand in my own and looked over at Ishido. Good for offense and defense. Okay, 2 more spots. Uraraka, you want in on this? If push comes to shove, your quirk can be a quick escape. I offered, and she didn't hesitate to join. I'm with you, Midoriya. She smiled, a good feeling spreading through me. At least I had friends who cared. Iida, you down? You'd be vital for mobility. I asked, and he shook his head. I'm sorry, Midoriya, I refuse. Ever since the entrance exam, I've been losing to you. It's precisely because you're a wonderful friend that I cannot follow you now. Up-tempered as I am, Bakugo and Todoroki aren't the only ones that see you as a rival. So I, too, challenge you. He told me and it sucked, but I could understand his reasoning. Sticking out my fist, I smiled, nodding to him. Then let's both do our best to win, okay? He looked at my fist and gently bumped it, giving me a nod before he left. Well, we still need mobility aw crap, I don't know now. Suddenly, a face was too close to my own, a big pair of goggles meeting my eyes. Team up with me place. The pink-haired girl yelled and I moved back a little. Whoa, too close, who are you? I asked and she lifted the goggles. I'm Mei Hatsum from the support course. I don't know you, but I could be useful to someone in your position. Joining with you means I'll inevitably be right in the spotlight, which means inevitably, my super cute babies will be too. They'll be seen by the industry big shots. They'll have to take notice of me and my babies. She told me, and Ashita looked at her. Hold on now babies, industry, what are you talking about? She asked, and I watched Hatsum pull out a number of gadgets and gizmos. In the support course, we develop equipment to make heroes' quirks easier to use. I've got plenty of babies here, I'm sure you'll find one or two that suit you. She pulled out a jetpack. Perhaps this one's to your liking. It's modeled after a certain heroes with a few additions of my own. No way, is that Buster Hero Air Jets? I love that guy. His agency used to be in my neighborhood. I took the pack, looking at it. It seemed I'd gotten her attention, or maybe she had mine. I'm still not sure. Is that right? By the way, my quirk is called Zoom. I can zoom my vision up to 5 kilometers away. She told me, and I was hooked. Her quirk would be good for a lookout. We had defense and offense, and I had a good escape plan should all that fail. Well, we could use the mobility you provide, yeah, I'm down. What do you guys think? I asked my other teammates. Ashita looked a little off-put, but she and your rocket didn't have any real complaints, and I whispered the plan to them. It took a few minutes to prepare, get the equipment ready, and get into position, but I didn't weigh anything up there, your rocket's quirk doing the majority of the work as the game started. Just keep us moving. Avoid anyone else. Mina, your acid is our main defense. If you think someone is going to break through, tell me. I told them, knowing my team understood the assignment. Unfortunately, so did literally everyone else. Good thing that was just aroused to draw an easy prey. 1,265,000. That's how much we're worth. If you're worth fighting, come get us. I yelled, waiting for someone to make a move towards us before Bakugo made his team run towards us, getting intercepted by a team made up of 1B students. Aw man, that sucks. I do like embarrassing Bakugo. I'm used, holding my arm away from the others, down at the ground, flicking myself up into the air. Keep an eye out for me, Uraraka. I can't guarantee this'll work forever. I yelled, flicking and shooting past Bakugo and the blonde from 1B, taking their headbands, but the other blonde managed to touch my elbow, laughing as he pointed his finger at me, his laugh abruptly cut off by his scream, his finger broken as he tried to use my quirk. Oh man, I am so sorry. If I knew what your quirk did, I'd have warned you. Can you keep going? I asked, flicking myself back over and feeling his hand on the 1 million headband. I don't mind a little pain if it means winning. He told me through gritted teeth and I held my hand in front of him, gripping the headband as he tried to pull it away. Good, because this could hurt. I told him, holding my hand out and flicking, the air hitting him in the stomach and sending me shooting over to my team, both headbands hanging from my neck. That was crazy. Who knew a quirk like that existed? Mina asked, pulling my leg and bringing me back down. I know, right, that's so cool. Oh, and thanks for making me float, Uraraka. You're the glue keeping this plan from falling apart. Well, we're all playing meticulous parts, and I'll thank you all when we win. I told them while the other teams were reluctant to approach us now. We want to keep them scared. You can dilute your acid enough to not burn too badly, right? I asked Mina, getting a determined nod as I saw Todoroki turn his sights on us. Great. Put a little on my hands. I whispered, leaning down and putting my hands in hers, getting acid on my hands and biting back a pained whimper. This sucked, but I could manage for what I had planned. This is gonna be risky, but you guys need to trust me. I grinned and stood on their hands. You got this, Izuku-kun. Mina chimed, Uraraka echoing her sentiment, and I flicked my finger, shooting off towards the freezer-burned student. Todoroki. I yelled, feeling an ice wall sprout and letting it cover me, all the way below the waist. You were too predictable, Midoriya. That's why you're losing. He told me, his team approaching carefully, the acid on my hands thawing the ice a little, then with as much movement as I could muster, I flicked and made a little more room, and then a little more. They were in front of me now, and I smiled at Todoroki. I'm predictable, but so are you, Todoroki. Half a quirk isn't enough. I built up as much power as I could muster in my fingers, flexing my hands and shattering the ice up my arms, and grabbing his headband with one hand and breaking the ice off me with another. You wanted a war. Too bad you didn't have enough firepower to make good on that promise. I kicked off the ice, waving to Ida. "Bye guys. I'll see you later," I called, flicking my finger and retreating. We were close to victory, a good 10 minutes or so already come and gone, this time getting pulled down by Mei. Todoroki took it worse than Bakugo, forcing his team forward for points it was unlikely they'd win. Nice. I'm so excited to meet him head-on. "Okay, everyone, plan B," I yelled, waiting until the icy frost was in front of to activate Uraraka's jet boots that she'd gotten from Mei, jumping quickly away from danger. "Behind us," Mei told me, and I flicked 2 fingers, one behind and one in front, keeping Bakugo and Todoroki at bay before grinning and jumping off my team's hands, leading them away. "Sorry boys, not today," I called, spanking my butt and mocking them as I rose up steadily. "If you can, come and get me," I yelled, Bakugo taking the challenge and blasting himself to me. "Todoroki said I'm predictable, but I don't think I am," I told him, pulling my fist back and hitting him with a full-powered air blast, watching him fly away, Zero barely catching and pulling him to safety, while I drifted, a large ice pillar stopping me in my floating track before I moved out the way, a blast of fire stinging my face with its heat. "Oh? You finally decided to play for keeps?" I asked, flicking down and shooting up as Kaminari exploded with electricity, Iida rushing at me faster than I'd ever seen, before flicking out the way and dodging by a hair. When he missed, Iida moved closer to the other teams, and Todoroki took the opportunity to take as many headbands as possible from teams. It seemed they'd realized it wasn't worth losing the event for their own pride. Unfortunately, Bakugo didn't bother to do the same, blasting his way to me with a primal-sounding scream. "Bakugo." Rolling my eyes, I moved out of the way, tossing him the headbands I stolen from the others. "This fight isn't over. Pick them up and meet me in the third event," I told him, flicking a little to keep from flying too far upwards, before Prison Mick counted down the last 10 seconds and Uraraka released her quirk, her and the other 2 catching me. "In first place, Team Midoriya." The blonde announcer's voice rang out and I held up the 1 million headband above my head. "We'd won, we could showboat a little bit." "In second place, Team Bakugo." "In third place, Team Todoroki." "In fourth place, Team Minama." His voice rang out, but I looked up to the box where I knew All Might was, wondering if I was doing this right, if I was making him proud. Chapter 3. From Tragedy to Victory. An hour break just didn't seem like enough time, especially since Todoroki asked to speak to me, the 2 of us going somewhere private. "So, what's on your mind, because I want to go get some food and this is cutting into our break." I tried to play it cool, but the guy who declared war on me wanted to suddenly parlay. I didn't quite trust him, but it didn't matter. "You overwhelmed me. So much that I broke my own pledge." Iida, Kaminari, Yaoyorozu, Ashido, Uraraka. None of them felt it. In that last instant, I was the only one feeling that pressure. I experienced All Might's power up close. He spoke, his voice calm and even. "Spit it out. Beating around the bushes for liars and landscapers," I told him, leaning against the wall, relaxing a bit. I needed to play off my own worries. "I felt the same pressure coming from you. So are you All Might's illegitimate child or something?" he asked, and I tried not to laugh. "Ha. As if. My dad lives halfway across the world, throwing checks to my mom until I turn 20. Other than that, he stays out of my life." It was the truth, I hadn't seen my dad since before I was diagnosed as quirkless. "Then you're connected to him some other way. There's definitely something you're hiding." "I'm sure of it." He paused, looking even more serious somehow. "You know, my father is Endeavor, the second greatest hero of all time. So if you're somehow connected to the #1 guy, then all the more reason for me to crush you. My dad, he's a powerful bastard who only thinks of getting stronger. Yeah, he's gone all out to make a name for himself as a hero, but he's always seen that living legend, All Might, as a roadblock and an eyesore. My father could never beat All Might by himself. So he came up with another plan." Todoroki looked so calm, but his words had weight behind them. Anger and something else I didn't understand. A grief I'd come to learn. "What's this about, Todoroki? Why are you telling me this?" I asked, trying not to seem as interested as I was now. "Quirk marriages. You've heard of them, yeah? They started becoming a problem after the second or third generation after quirks appeared. Strong individuals would choose a partner and force them into marriage for the sole purpose of passing on a strengthened version of their own quirk. Those earlier generations were lacking in ethics. With his wealth and fame, my father made my mother's family agree to the marriage. All to get his hands on her quirk. Raising me as a hero who could exceed All Might just to fulfill his own ambitions. I hated being no more than a tool for that human garbage. As I remember it, Mom was always crying, "I can't stand to see that left side of yours," she said before throwing the scalding hot water in my face. His words made me shudder, a child of human trafficking, and his own mother had disfigured him. In short, not using my left side against you was revenge on him. Never using my rotten father's quirk, no, by rising to the top without using it, I'll have denied him everything. He turned, slowly walking away from me. Your connection to All Might, keep it to yourself if you want. Either way, I'll rise above you with just my right side. Sorry for wasting your time. He told me, hands in his pockets as I pushed off the wall and faced him, trying to find the words to reply. I've always had help. No matter the situation, I've only come this far because other people helped me. All Might, I want to be like him. For that, I have to become the strongest. That might seem like a lame motivation compared to yours, but I'm not gonna lose. All the people who have helped me, that's how I'll repay them. Let me return your declaration of war with one of my own. I'm gonna beat you. He stared at me for a moment before he turned his head away, and I went back to the field. Where have you been? Mina asked as I took her hand, my eyes looking over her cheerleading costume before I looked away as President Mick explained the third event to the TV audience watching. Between the 16 members of the 4 winning teams, we'll have a final tournament. A series of one-on-one battles. He exclaimed, Midnight taking the stage to explain what exactly the rules would be. The tournament, huh? So we'll be up in that ring I see on TV every year. Kirishima cheered, his excitement contagious. Was it a tournament last year, too? Mina asked, looking up at the heroine. The format's always different, but most years, they have some kind of head-to-head competition. Last year, it was foam sword fighting. He told her, Midnight getting our attention again by speaking. The matchups will be decided by drawing lots. Once that's settled, we'll move on to the festivities and then the tournament itself. It's up to each of the 16 finalists whether or not you want to participate in the fun. I expect some of you would rather take a break and save your strength. Now, let's start with the first place team. She was interrupted by Ejiro, who'd raised his hand and spoke. Excuse me. I'd like to drop out. He told Midnight, all of us wondering why he'd do such a thing. The cavalry battle, I have no memories of anything that happened up until the tail end. It's probably his quirk that did it. I know this is a great opportunity and I know how stupid I must seem to throw it away. But this final tournament, everyone else made it here by their own strength. Yet I'm standing here and I don't even know how or why. I just can't take it. He explained, looking dead set on his decision. You're thinking about it too hard. Just show what you're made of in the tournament. Hagakure told him, Mina speaking up as well. By that logic, I shouldn't really be here either. But she'd been important to keep us safe in beating Todoroki. No, I'm talking about my pride here. I don't think it's right. And why the heck are you girls dressed like that anyway? He asked, holding his face in his hand. I can't remember anything either. I want to withdraw, too. A short kid from 1B called out. This is a contest of skill. Letting someone who didn't do anything advance, doesn't that defeat the whole point of the sports festival? Isn't it even against the rules? These guy, so manly. Kirishima loudly, looking amazed by both of them. We have a strange turn of events. President Mick spoke, and I could hear someone clear their throat. What will the coordinator, Midnight, decide? Azawa spoke, and I was impressed that he wasn't asleep right now. Midnight's face looked dark for a moment before she spoke. How naive and green, she cracked her whip. I like it. Shota and Ejiro have officially withdrawn. Replacing those two will be members of Team Kendo, which took 5th. The girl I assumed was Kendo put her hands on her hips. If it's gonna be like that, shouldn't it be them instead? I mean, we were immobilized practically the entire time. But they were giving their all to keep what they had until the very end. Team Tetsutetsu, I mean. She looked to her classmate. Don't worry, we're not colluding or anything. This just feels right. She told them. You guys. Tetsutetsu and a girl with vine hair gave a salute and bow, respectively. So be it. Tetsutetsu and Shiozaki bring us back up to 16 competitors. Midnight called, and my team drew our lots first, the final results of the lots pitting me against Shinso, the guy who'd been in charge of the team Ejiro and the Shota had been on. Izuku Midoriya, that's you, yeah? A voice asked, and I looked back to see him, my mouth opening before something fluffy was in front of my lips, stopping me from speaking. Midoriya. That guy. Don't answer him. Ejiro warned, and I watched the tired-looking boy walk away. We were dismissed to participate in the activities, but I sat them out on the field, watching Mina cheer, while Ejiro explained that he answered Shinso and then kind of woke up after the cavalry battle. So I just keep my trap shut and knock him out quickly. I'm screwed. I joked, laying back against the wall and watching the sunshine off Mina's eyes. This isn't a joke, Midoriya. He's not physically strong, so he'll likely try to manipulate you. Just keep your head on straight and you should be fine. He warned, the two of us waiting for the third event. Before the event, I went to continue our little tradition with Mina, finally heading out, All Might stopping me before I could leave the tunnel out to the field. How are you feeling, kid? he asked, putting a hand on my shoulder. I wanted to make him proud, make my mom and everyone who'd helped me get this far proud. I'm scared, a little worried. The higher I climb, the more likely I'll fall. I admitted, and he buffed up. When you feel that way, that's when you've got to smile. You've come this far, show some bravado, even if it's fake. Never forget, I'm expecting big things from you. He told me, and determination washed over me as I walked out to the field, Present Mick announcing who we were. The first match. Having given an excellent performance so far, it's Izuku Midoriya from the hero course. Versus. Sorry, but this guy hasn't really done anything to stand out yet. It's Hitachi Shinso, from General Studies. The rules are simple. Win by knocking your opponent out of the ring, immobilizing them, or getting them to say, I give up. Bring on the pain. We've got our good old recovery girl on standby. And fight dirty if you must. Ethics have no meaning here. Well, of course, going for the kill is a no-no. You'll be disqualified. Because a true hero's fist flies only when in pursuit of villains. The blonde announcer continued, giving us all a moment. Not true. We're literally about to fight. I pointed out, getting shushed by Midnight. I give up, huh? Get it, Izuku Midoriya. This battle's going to test your strength of will. If you've got any kind of vision for your future, there's no sense in worrying about how you get there. Shinso spoke, looking menacing from across the arena. Present Mick spoke up again. Now let's get this thing started. Riadi. Like that monkey, babbling about his stupid pride. Shinso pushed, probing for a reaction. What kind of dumbus throws away a chance like that? Start. Present Mick called, my feet moving forward, blind anger clouding my thoughts. What did you say? I yelled before stopping in my tracks. It's my win. I could hear Shinso speak, but beyond that, I couldn't hear anything else. Not the crowds, not Mick. You now turn around and walk out of the ring. Shinso spoke, my body moving slowly against my will, but I could hear the others now, their voices echoed loudly in the quiet of my mind. As I stepped closer to the edge, trying desperately to stop myself, I could see them in the walkway into the field, figures in the darkness, a woman who kind of looked like my mother, if my mom was super buff and over 6 feet tall speaking. Ninth, you can't lose now. You have a responsibility to the world. Wake up. She called to me, but I was on the edge of the arena, falling, the ground getting closer, and then, nothing. No crash, like when your Raka had caught me. No, it was that weightless feeling I'd spoken to All Might about. Suddenly, I realized I could hear the sounds of people watching the festival, Mick shouting that I wasn't technically out yet, the sounds of Shinso running towards me. I couldn't lose here, not like this, extending my hands and flicking upwards, shooting back and up into the air, but I wasn't floating upwards, I still had some semblance of gravity as I just floated there. I didn't have time to think about it, a timeout called by Midnight to make sure your Raka hadn't used her quirk, leaving me stuck in the air before the match continued. I could worry about it later, though, flicking my fingers and shooting down, running towards Shinso and screaming at the top of my lungs, drowning out his voice with my own and punching him in the stomach, Shinso taking 2 steps back before catching himself and throwing a punch, slow and sloppy, and I didn't move as it connected with my cheek. 5% of my power should be more than enough. I spoke, focusing a bit of power in my right arm and punching the air, the sheer force knocking him off his feet and rolling him onto the grass. Shinso is out of the ring. Midoriya moves on to the next round. Midnight called, and I ran down to Shinso, offering to help him up. You were the only support course student to make it this far. You've done better than most of the hero course. If your goal is to be a hero, I think you'll be a great one. I smiled, and he took my hand, his support course classmates calling down to him. You were awesome out there, Shinso. You had us on the edge of our seats. You're the shining star of us general studies, guys. You did just as well as the guy who got third in the obstacle course. A few heroes even spoke loudly enough that their conversations on the boy could be heard, one of his classmates looking down and yelling. Hear that, Shinso, you're awesome. He told him, and Shinso spoke, this time to me. They'll consider transfers to the hero course depending on the results here. Remember that. Maybe I failed this time, but I'm not giving up. I'll show them all that I've got what it takes to make the hero course, and I'll become a greater hero than all of you. He told me, my smile widening. You better. I told him, my body stiffening up again. People who respond to me tend to stiffen up like that. It'd be easy to mess everything up for you now, so just promise me, you won't lose in a sorry way out there. He let me go of his quirk's grasp, and I nodded again. I won't. I told him, getting caught in it again. Really? Geez. He sighed and let me go again, finally leaving, and after a moment, I realized I should probably go too. I wanted to ask All Might about the people I saw. Hope you liked this part. If this video gets 100 likes, then I will upload the next part. Till then be safe, enjoy your life. Sayonara.